I'll give you $2 to be my boyfriend. Those words, spoken by a billionaire heiress in a coffee shop, changed everything. But here's the twist. The man who accepted that ridiculous offer? He was the same boy she'd humiliated and rejected years ago in high school. Now he's a self-made billionaire himself, and she has no idea who he really is. This is a story about second chances, hidden identities, and the moment when a $2 transaction became worth more than millions. Before we dive in, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The fluorescent lights of Morrison's cafe buzzed overhead like tired bees, casting a yellowish glow over the scattered tables and half-empty coffee cups. It was 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, that dead zone between lunch and dinner when the world seemed to pause and take a breath. Outside, the city moved at its relentless pace, all honking horns and hurried footsteps. But inside this tiny cafe wedged between a dry cleaner and a pawn shop, time felt slower, heavier. Noah Bennett sat in the corner booth, his daughter's backpack beside him, a cold cup of coffee going stale in front of him. He was 32, though some days he felt twice that. The kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix had settled into his bones. The exhaustion of a man who'd been fighting upstream for so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like to float. His fingers drummed against the scarred tabletop as he waited. Lily's school had called again. Another incident. Another conversation about her behavior issues that really meant she was acting out because she missed her mother. Noah didn't blame his daughter for that. He missed Sarah too, in that complicated way you miss someone who left a hole in your life shaped exactly like them. He checked his watch. The school counselor had said 4 o'clock. He still had time. The cafe door chimed and Noah glanced up out of habit. A woman walked in, and the energy in the room shifted. Or maybe that was just his perception, the way certain people seem to carry weather systems with them. She was tall, dressed in clothes that screamed money, even though they were deliberately understated. Designer jeans that fit like they'd been made for her body specifically. A silk blouse the color of champagne, leather boots that probably cost more than Noah's monthly rent. But it was her face that caught him. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that looked like they were cataloging everything and finding most of it disappointing, and an expression that hovered somewhere between fury and desperation. Vivian Hale. Noah's chest tightened. He knew that face. Not from magazines or society pages, though she'd been in plenty of those. He knew it from memory, from a version of it that was younger, crueler, framed by different hair and an expression of casual dismissal. She didn't recognize him. Why would she? People like Vivian Hale didn't remember people like who he used to be. She ordered something. Noah couldn't hear what. And the barista's eyes widened slightly, probably recognizing her, probably wondering what someone like her was doing in a place like this. Vivian pulled out her wallet, and Noah watched her expression shift from impatient to confused to mortified as she apparently discovered she'd left her card somewhere else. "I have," she said loud enough for Noah to hear, "I have $2. The barista, a teenager with green hair and a septum piercing, looked uncertain. "The latte is $4.50. "I know what a latte costs," Vivian snapped, then seemed to catch herself. She closed her eyes, took a breath. "I'm sorry, that was rude. I'll just take a regular coffee. Small. Whatever $2 gets me." $2 gets you a small coffee, yeah," the barista said slowly, pouring it. "But you'd have better luck at the 7-Eleven down the block. Just saying." Vivian took the cup without responding and turned to find a seat. Her eyes swept the cafe, nearly empty except for an elderly man doing a crossword puzzle and Noah in his corner booth. She chose a table near the window, as far from other people as possible, and sat down with the rigid posture of someone trying very hard to hold themselves together. Noah should have looked away, should have minded his own business. He had enough problems without adding whatever was clearly happening in Vivian Hale's life to the list, but he'd always been bad at should. He watched her pull out her phone, stare at it for a long moment, then set it face down on the table like it had personally offended her. She wrapped both hands around the coffee cup, seeking warmth or maybe just something to hold on to, and stared out the window at the passing traffic. Noah had imagined this moment before, though he'd never admit it out loud. Running into Vivian Hale again. What he'd say. How she'd react. In those fantasies, he was always impressive, successful, accompanied by someone beautiful. She'd realize what she'd missed. She'd regret what she'd done. The reality was him in a cafe, waiting to talk to a school counselor about his 7-year-old's behavioral problems, watching a woman he used to know have what looked like a breakdown over a $2 cup of coffee. Funny how life worked out. The elderly man with the crossword puzzle stood up, gathered his things, and shuffled out, leaving just Noah and Vivian in the cafe. The barista had disappeared into the back room, probably scrolling through their phone. Vivian's shoulders started shaking. For a horrible moment, Noah thought she was crying, but then he heard it. Laughter. Quiet. Bitter. The kind that had nothing to do with joy and everything to do with the universe's sense of irony. 30 years old, she said, apparently to herself, and I can't even afford a decent coffee. Noah knew he should stay quiet, but something in her voice, that mix of pride and pain, pulled at something in his chest, some old wound he thought had scarred over years ago. He picked up his cold coffee and walked over to her table. Mind if I sit? Vivian looked up, startled. Her eyes were dry but red-rimmed, and up close he could see the exhaustion written in the fine lines around them. She studied him for a long moment, her expression cycling through surprise, suspicion, and finally settling on a kind of reckless indifference. Free country, she said. Noah sat. The chair squeaked against the linoleum floor. He set his coffee cup down and leaned back, taking her in. 14 years. That's how long it had been since he'd last been this close to her. She'd changed, not just older. Everyone got older. But there was something different in her eyes now, something that hadn't been there when they were 18. Experience? Maybe. Or disappointment. Or both. You okay? He asked. Vivian laughed again, that same bitter sound. Do I look okay? You look like you're having the kind of day where $2 coffee feels appropriate. $2 coffee is all I can afford right now. My cards are at home. My driver quit this morning. Apparently I'm too difficult to work for. I took an Uber here from my sister's place where I just had a delightful conversation about her wedding this weekend and how pathetic I am for showing up alone while she marries her perfect finance guy with his perfect hair and his perfect trust fund. She took a sip of coffee and grimaced. This tastes like someone burned it out of spite. Noah smiled despite himself. Probably did. This place isn't known for quality. Then why are you here? Meeting someone. I have time to kill. Vivian's eyes narrowed slightly, really looking at him now. You seem familiar. Do I know you? Noah's heart kicked against his ribs. I have one of those faces. She accepted this with a shrug, apparently too tired to care. They sat in silence for a moment, the buzz of the fluorescent lights filling the space between them. So, Noah said carefully, your sister's wedding, this weekend? Saturday. At the plaza. 300 guests, live orchestra, ice sculptures shaped like swans. The whole obscene production. Vivian's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. And I'm expected to show up alone, smile for the cameras, and pretend I'm happy while everyone whispers about how Vivian can't keep a man. Vivian's always been difficult. Vivian's the disappointment. You could not go. Oh, I'm going. Her voice had steel in it now. I'm absolutely going. She trailed off, staring into her coffee like it held answers. I just wish I had someone to bring. Someone to make them all shut up for 5 minutes. Noah shouldn't have said what he said next. He knew it even as the words formed. But there was something about the way she sat there, all that wealth and privilege crumbling around her, revealing something raw and real underneath, that made him reckless. Hire someone. Vivian looked up sharply. What? Hire someone to be your boyfriend for the wedding. That's a thing, right? I've heard about that. She stared at him for a long moment, then laughed, a real laugh this time, surprised and genuine. With what money? I have $2. Noah leaned forward, elbows on the table. Then I'll do it for $2. The words hung in the air between them. Vivian's smile faded slowly, replaced by confusion, then suspicion. You're serious. Why not? You need a date. I clean up okay. $2 is $2. He kept his voice light, casual, even though his pulse was hammering in his throat. You don't even know me. I know you're having a terrible day. I know your sister's getting married and you don't want to go alone. I know you're drinking $2 coffee in a place that serves spite with every cup. He paused. What else do I need to know? Vivian studied him with those sharp, dark eyes, and Noah wondered if she could see through him, if she could somehow recognize the boy he used to be underneath the man he'd become. But her expression remained skeptical and slightly amused. This is insane, she said. Probably. You could be a serial killer. Could be, but I'm not. You could embarrass me, make everything worse. I could, Noah agreed. Or I could stand next to you, look presentable, and make your family wonder who the hell you've been hiding. Your call. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the afternoon sun was starting to slant through the buildings, painting everything in shades of amber and shadow. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. What's your name? She asked finally. Noah. Noah what? Does it matter? I'm a $2 rental boyfriend. She laughed again, shaking her head. This is the craziest thing I've ever done. Is that a yes? Vivian pulled 2 crumpled dollar bills from her pocket and slid them across the table. That's a yes, but you'd better not make me regret this, Noah. No last name. Noah picked up the bills and tucked them into his shirt pocket, right over his heart. Wouldn't dream of it. They exchanged information. Noah gave her a phone number he rarely used, an email address he checked even less. Vivian wrote down the wedding details on a napkin. Saturday, 6 p.m., the plaza, black tie. Her handwriting was neat, precise, nothing like the chaos Noah remembered from high school when she'd scrawled notes in class and passed them to her friends. I should go, Vivian said, standing up. She seemed steadier now, like the decision, crazy as it was, had given her something to hold on to. Thank you for this. It's ridiculous, but thank you. See you Saturday, Vivian? She paused, one hand on her purse. How did you know my name? Noah's mind raced. It's on your coffee cup. Vivian glanced at the cup, where the barista had indeed scrawled Vivian in black marker. She nodded, apparently satisfied, and walked out. Noah watched her go, watched her disappear into the city's afternoon crowd, just another expensive silhouette among millions. The cafe door chimed shut. Noah pulled out the $2 bills and stared at them. In his pocket, his phone buzzed, probably the school counselor confirming their meeting. He should put the money away, should forget this whole thing, should recognize it for what it was, a moment of temporary insanity brought on by bad coffee and old memories. Instead, he thought about Vivian Hale at 18, standing in the hallway of Westbrook High with her friends clustered around her like ladies in waiting. He thought about himself at 18, skinny and awkward, wearing clothes from the Goodwill, scraping together courage like spare change. He thought about walking up to her after months of silent admiration, finally brave enough to ask her to the spring dance. He thought about her face when she looked at him, really looked at him, and the way her expression shifted from surprise to something that might have been pity but felt a lot more like disgust. I don't date charity cases, she'd said, loud enough for her friends to hear, loud enough to make sure he understood exactly where he stood in her world. Noah had walked away that day feeling like something inside him had shattered. Not his heart. He'd been too young to know what heartbreak really felt like. But something else. His sense of possibility, maybe. His belief that hard work and good intentions could bridge the gap between their worlds. He'd spent the next 14 years proving her wrong, building himself up from nothing, becoming someone who mattered. And now, through some cosmic joke, Vivian Hale had just hired him for $2. Noah smiled, tucked the bills carefully into his wallet, and stood up. His phone buzzed again. The meeting with the counselor. Lily. Real life waiting outside this moment. But Saturday was coming. And Saturday, he decided, was going to be very interesting. No. The Bennett apartment was small, 2 bedrooms in a building that had seen better decades, with pipes that groaned and radiators that clanked. But it was clean, and it was theirs, and Noah had worked hard to make it feel like home for Lily. His daughter was sprawled on the living room floor when he got back from his meeting with the counselor, surrounded by crayons and paper, drawing what looked like a castle with improbable architecture. "Daddy!" She scrambled up and launched herself at him, all sharp elbows and wild energy. Noah caught her, swung her around once, and set her down. "Hey, Ladybug. Good day? Mrs. Chen let me help water the plants. and Tommy shared his cookies with me at snack time. She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward her drawings. Look, I made a castle. You're the king and I'm the princess, and we have a dragon that's nice and only eats bad guys. Noah crouched down, studying the drawing seriously. That's an excellent dragon. Very fierce. She's a girl dragon. Her name is Sparkle. Fierce and sparkly, the best combination. Lily beamed at him, and Noah felt that familiar ache in his chest, the desperate need to protect this smile, this joy, this little person who trusted him to hold her world together even when his own kept threatening to fall apart. Mrs. Chen, their neighbor who watched Lily after school, appeared in the doorway. She was 72, sharp as a tack, and charged Noah absolutely nothing because she said Lily reminded her of her granddaughter. She had a good day, Mrs. Chen said. No problems. Did your meeting go okay? Noah stood, fishing money from his wallet, not the $2 from Vivian, those were staying, and handing Mrs. Chen $40. She always protested, and he always insisted. It was their routine. Meeting went fine. They want to set up a regular check-in schedule. Make sure Lily's adjusting. Mrs. Chen gave him a knowing look. She's adjusting fine. She's a good girl. Just needs time. After Mrs. Chen left, Noah made dinner. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, garlic bread from the freezer, apple slices on the side. Lily chattered through the meal about her day, about Tommy's cookies, about the girl dragon Sparkle and her adventures. Noah listened, asked questions, and tried not to think about Saturday. But after Lily was in bed, tucked in tight, her dragon drawing on the nightstand beside her, Noah stood in his own bedroom and stared at his closet. He owned one suit. He'd bought it 3 years ago for a job interview, back when he was still pretending he might work for someone else. It was black, basic, fine for funerals and the occasional formal event. It would do for a wedding, but it wouldn't do for what Noah actually needed it to do. He pulled out his laptop and started searching. Rental tuxedos, same-day tailoring, places that could make him look like he belonged at a Plaza Hotel wedding. The prices made him wince, but he had savings. Not much, but enough. He'd built his business carefully over the years, slowly, staying under the radar on purpose. Because Noah Bennett wasn't actually a struggling single dad barely getting by. That was true in its way. He was a single dad. He did struggle. Everyone struggled with something. But the barely getting by part? That was a choice. A deliberate construction. His real name was Noah Bennett, but the name on his business accounts, the name on the incorporation papers for the company he'd built from nothing into something worth hundreds of millions, was different, carefully separated, deliberately hidden. After Vivian had rejected him 14 years ago, Noah had made a decision. He was going to become someone who mattered, someone who couldn't be dismissed, but he was going to do it on his own terms, in his own way, and he was never, ever going to give someone the chance to hurt him like that again. So he disappeared, worked 3 jobs through community college, then a state school, taught himself coding, business, investment strategy, started a tech company with borrowed money and pure stubbornness, sold it for his first million at 25, started another one, sold that one for more. By 30, Noah Bennett, the name no one in business circles knew, was worth more than most people made in 10 lifetimes. But he lived in a modest apartment, drove a 10-year-old car, dressed like someone who clipped coupons. Because wealth without privacy was prison, and Noah had learned that lesson watching people like Vivian Hale grow up in gilded cages. He'd kept tabs on her over the years, not obsessively, just aware. He knew about her family's business troubles, her father's gambling debts, the way the Hale fortune had crumbled while everyone pretended it hadn't. He knew she worked at a restaurant, or had, until recently. He knew her sister was marrying money, solidifying what was left of the family's social position. And he knew that Vivian had no idea who he really was. Saturday was going to be complicated. Noah closed his laptop and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The smart thing would be to cancel, text her some excuse, let her find another last-minute date, or go alone. But the $2 in his wallet felt heavier than $2 should feel. This wasn't about revenge. Noah had worked too hard on himself to be that petty. This wasn't even about proving something to Vivian, though there was probably a piece of that if he was honest. This was about seeing what would happen when you put 2 people in a room who'd been different people the last time they met. When you gave someone a second chance to see you without the blur of their own assumptions. Or maybe he was just curious if Vivian Hale's eyes still looked the same when she smiled for real instead of for cameras. Either way, he had 3 days to prepare. Noah set an alarm, turned off the light, and tried to sleep. Friday afternoon found Noah in a tailor shop in the financial district, standing on a small platform while a man named Giuseppe measured and pinned and muttered in rapid Italian about Americans and their shoulders. "You have good frame," Giuseppe said, stepping back to assess. "But this suit, this is garbage. Cheap fabric, bad cut. You need something better for Plaza Hotel, yes?" "I need something that works," Noah said. Giuseppe made a dismissive sound. "I make it work, but you come back to me when you want something that sings, capiche?" Noah agreed, paid the rush fee that made his savings account whimper, and left with a promise that the suit would be ready by Saturday morning. His phone rang as he walked back to his car. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Hello? Noah? It's Vivian." Her voice sounded different over the phone, less sharp, almost uncertain. "Hey, everything okay? I'm calling to give you an out." She said it quickly, like she'd been rehearsing. "I know this whole thing is crazy. You're a stranger. I'm a mess. We don't owe each other anything. So if you want to back out, no hard feelings. I'll figure something else out." Noah stopped walking. Around him, the city moved. Friday afternoon traffic, people rushing toward their weekends, the particular energy of lives in motion. "You want me to back out?" he asked. "I want you to have the option." "Do you want me to back out?" Silence. Then, "No." "Then I'll see you tomorrow. 6 p.m., right?" "Right." A pause. "Are you going to tell me your last name before I introduce you to 300 people?" Noah smiled. "Where's the fun in that? You're enjoying this." "Maybe a little." He could hear her smile through the phone. "You're strange, Noah, no last name. You hired a date for $2. You don't get to call me strange." "Fair point." Another pause. "Thank you for doing this. I know it's weird. Life's weird. Might as well lean into it." After they hung up, Noah stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, phone in hand, wondering what the hell he was doing, wondering if this was brilliance or madness or something in between. His phone buzzed again. Text from Mrs. Chen. "Lily, asking when you'll be home. I told her soon. Hurry up, she's plotting something with markers." Noah laughed and headed to his car. Whatever happened tomorrow, today he was still just a dad trying to get home before his daughter redecorated the apartment with washable markers. Some things were gloriously uncomplicated. But Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect weather that felt personally insulting. Sunshine, clear skies, temperatures that required neither coat nor complaint. The universe apparently had decided that Vivian Hale's sister deserved a flawless wedding day. Noah picked up his suit from Giuseppe, who had somehow transformed the basic black rental into something that looked almost custom. He showered, shaved carefully, and dressed in his apartment while Lily sat on his bed and provided commentary. "You look fancy, Daddy." "I'm going to a wedding." "Whose wedding?" "Someone I used to know." "Do I know them?" "Nope." Lily thought about this. "Will there be cake?" "Probably very fancy cake." "Can you bring me some?" Noah smiled, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "I'll try." Mrs. Chen arrived to watch Lily for the evening, and Noah kissed his daughter goodbye, promised to be home by midnight, and headed out into the late afternoon. The Plaza Hotel rose above Fifth Avenue like a wedding cake itself, all pale stone and ornate architecture, the kind of building that existed to remind you that some people's ordinary was most people's fantasy. Noah had been here before, for business meetings in the conference rooms, but never for something like this. He parked in the garage. The valet would have asked too many questions, and made his way to the main entrance at exactly 5:55 p.m. Vivian was waiting just inside, and Noah stopped walking when he saw her. She wore a dress the color of deep wine, something that managed to be both elegant and slightly dangerous, with a neckline that suggested confidence and a cut that suggested she'd stopped caring what her family thought was appropriate. Her hair was up, revealing the long line of her neck, and she wore earrings that caught the light when she moved. She looked devastating and absolutely terrified. Their eyes met across the lobby, and something flickered in her expression. Recognition, maybe, or just surprised that he'd actually shown up. She walked toward him, each step measured and careful in heels that added 3 inches to her height. "You came," she said. "Did you think I wouldn't?" "Honestly, I gave it 50-50 odds." She looked him up and down, and Noah saw the surprise register. "You clean up better than okay." Giuseppe would be pleased to hear that. "Giuseppe?" "My tailor. Long story." Vivian smiled, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "We should go in. The ceremony starts in 5 minutes, and my mother will have a stroke if I'm late." She started to turn away, but Noah caught her hand. She froze, looking down at where his fingers wrapped around hers. "Before we go in," he said quietly, "ground rules. What do you need from me tonight?" Vivian's expression softened slightly. "Just stay close. Don't leave me alone with them. And if my father starts asking questions about your family or your job or your net worth, which he absolutely will, feel free to be as vague as humanly possible." "I can do vague." "Good." She squeezed his hand once, quickly, then let go. "Let's do this before I lose my nerve." They walked into the ballroom together, and Noah felt the exact moment when the room's attention shifted toward them. It wasn't obvious. These people were too practiced for that, but he could sense it in the slight turns of heads, the whispered conversations, the way eyes tracked them as they found their seats. Vivian's family was in the front row. Noah cataloged them quickly. Mother in pale blue, expression of permanent disappointment. Father silver-haired and red-faced, the look of a man who'd spent his life convinced of his own importance. And in the middle, the bride, younger than Vivian by at least 3 years, blonde where Vivian was dark, radiant in the specific way of people who'd never had to question their place in the world. The ceremony was elaborate and impersonal, the kind of wedding that cost more than most people's houses and felt about as warm. Noah sat next to Vivian, acutely aware of the tension in her body, the way she held herself rigid and perfect. Halfway through the vows, she reached for his hand. Noah took it, lacing his fingers through hers, and felt her exhale slightly. They sat like that through the rest of the ceremony, 2 people playing pretend, except Noah wasn't entirely sure anymore what parts were pretend and what parts were something else. When the ceremony ended and people began filtering toward the reception, Vivian's mother materialized beside them like something summoned. "Vivian?" Her voice was crisp, controlled. "You didn't mention you were bringing someone." "Mother, this is Noah. Noah, my mother, Catherine Hale." Noah stood, offering his hand. Catherine took it with the kind of handshake that was really an assessment. Her eyes traveled over him, calculating, measuring, finding him probably wanting but uncertain. "Lovely to meet you," she said, in a tone that suggested it was anything but. "What do you do, Noah?" "I work in tech." "How modern." Catherine's attention shifted back to Vivian. "Your sister looks beautiful, doesn't she?" "She does," Vivian agreed flatly. "You should congratulate her. After all, it's not every day a Hale woman marries so well." The emphasis on a Hale woman was deliberate, pointed. Vivian's hemming tightened in Noah's. He squeezed back gently and turned to Catherine with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I should congratulate you as well, Mrs. Hale. You raised 2 remarkable daughters, though I have to say I'm partial to the one I came with." Catherine's expression flickered, surprise maybe, or irritation that he'd responded at all. Before she could answer, other guests pressed in and she was swept away in a tide of air kisses and practiced pleasantries. "Tech, huh?" Vivian murmured as they moved toward the reception hall. "Vague enough for you?" "I try." The reception was everything Noah expected. Ice sculptures, live orchestra, tables draped in cream and gold, centerpieces that probably cost more than his monthly rent. They found their assigned seats at a table with other relatives and friends, all of whom immediately began the process of polite interrogation. Noah fielded questions with easy confidence, giving just enough information to be plausible while revealing essentially nothing. Yes, he lived in the city. No, he and Vivian hadn't been dating long. Yes, he'd met her family before. Well, her mother, just now, lovely woman. No, he didn't golf, but he'd always meant to learn. Beside him, Vivian relaxed incrementally. She'd expected him to fumble, Noah realized. Expected him to be out of place, uncomfortable, obviously the hired help. Instead, he belonged. Because Noah had spent years in rooms exactly like this one, making deals with people exactly like these ones, learning the language of money and power and casual cruelty disguised as small talk. Dinner was served, some elaborate chicken dish that looked beautiful and tasted like effort, and wine flowed freely. Noah drank sparingly. Vivian drank less. "You're good at this," she said quietly during a lull in conversation. "At what?" "Fitting in. Being exactly what they expect while giving them nothing. Practice." She studied him. "You're full of secrets, aren't you, Noah? No last name?" Before he could answer, the best man stood up to give a toast. It was everything a best man's toast should be. Funny, heartfelt, just embarrassing enough. People laughed in all the right places. The bride glowed. The groom looked appropriately moved. Then Vivian's father stood up. Richard Hale was drunk. Not falling down drunk, but the kind of drunk where all the edges were blurred and all the truths came out sideways. He raised his glass and launched into a speech about family, legacy, and the importance of marrying well. "My youngest daughter," he said, his voice carrying across the room, "has always known her value, has always understood that a good marriage is about partnership, financial partnership, social partnership, building something together." His eyes found Vivian. "Not everyone in this family has been so wise." The room went quiet. The orchestra had stopped playing. Everyone was listening now. "Vivian," Richard continued, his smile sharp, "has always been my difficult child, my independent one. Too proud to accept help, too stubborn to make smart choices." He raised his glass higher. "But perhaps she's finally learning. Perhaps tonight, with her companion, she's showing us she understands what really matters." It was meant to wound. It was meant to put Vivian in her place while elevating her sister. And Noah could see it landing, could see Vivian's face go pale, her jaw clench, her fingers tighten around her wine glass. He stood up. The room's attention shifted to him immediately. Beside him, Vivian inhaled sharply. "Mr. Hale," Noah said, his voice calm, clear, carrying. "Thank you for that toast, and thank you for raising such an extraordinary woman." He turned to face Vivian, who was staring at him with wide eyes. "I'm the lucky one here. Your daughter didn't choose me because I fit some checklist of social acceptability. She chose me because—" He paused, letting the silence build. "Because we recognize something real in each other, something that has nothing to do with money or status or anyone else's expectations." He raised his own glass. "To Vivian, the woman who had the courage to spend $2 on the best decision she's ever made." The room erupted in laughter, surprised, delighted, genuine. People raised their glasses, drinking to a toast that had somehow turned her father's cruelty into a charming anecdote. Noah sat down. Vivian was still staring at him. $2? She whispered. I warned you I was strange." Her expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, she started to laugh. Real laughter this time, the kind that shook her shoulders and made tears gather in the corners of her eyes. She laughed until she had to put down her wine glass before she spilled it. "You're insane," she said. "You hired me for $2. What did you expect?" The reception continued. Dancing started. Vivian's sister and her new husband swayed together to something slow and expensive. Other couples joined them. "Do you dance?" Vivian asked. "I manage." She stood, offering her hand. "Then manage." They moved to the dance floor, and Noah pulled Vivian closer than was strictly appropriate for a fake date, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that reminded him of night-blooming flowers. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for what you said." "To my father. He was out of line. He's always out of line, but you—" She looked up at him, her dark eyes searching his face. "You defended me. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." They swayed together, the orchestra playing something classical and romantic. Around them, other couples moved in their own orbits, but Noah was only aware of Vivian, the warmth of her, the weight of her hand in his, the way she fit against him like she'd been designed for exactly this purpose. "I know you," she said suddenly. Noah's heart stopped. "What?" "I do. I know you from somewhere." Her eyes narrowed, concentrating. "Not recently, before. But I can't—" She shook her head, frustrated. "It's right there. On the edge of my memory. Maybe I just have one of those faces. No, she said it with certainty. Your face is specific, memorable. Her hand tightened on his shoulder. Tell me. This was the moment. Noah could feel it balanced on a knife's edge. He could tell her now, here, end the game before it went any further. But before he could speak, someone cut in. Mind if I steal the bride's sister for a dance? They both turned. The man standing there was tall, polished, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than Noah's car. He had the kind of face that looked like it came from a catalog, generically handsome, professionally maintained. Marcus, Vivian said, her voice gone flat. Vivian. Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You look stunning, as always. I'm dancing. I can see that. I just thought we should catch up. It's been what, 6 months? Noah felt Vivian stiffen in his arms. He looked between them, reading the history written in her expression. I'm good, Vivian said. Thanks anyway. Marcus's smile sharpened. Come on, Viv. Don't be difficult. One dance won't kill you. She said no. Noah's voice was quiet but firm. Marcus's attention shifted to him, really seeing him for the first time. And you are? Her date. Her date. Marcus laughed. Right. Well, her date. This is a family event. Family friends. You're probably out of your depth here. Noah smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Try me. The moment stretched. Marcus was trying to decide if Noah was worth the confrontation. Noah was trying to decide how many witnesses there were if he wiped that smug expression off Marcus's face. Vivian made the decision for them. Come on, she said, tugging Noah's hand. Let's get some air. They left Marcus standing on the dance floor and made their way through the crowd, through the French doors, onto a terrace that overlooked Central Park. The night air was cool, fresh after the perfumed density of the ballroom. Sorry about that, Vivian said. Marcus is complicated. Ex-fiancé. We were engaged 6 months ago. Then he met someone with a better last name and more family money, and suddenly I wasn't quite as appealing. She leaned against the terrace railing, looking out at the park. My family loved him. They were devastated when it ended. More devastated than I was, actually. He's an idiot. Vivian glanced at him, surprised. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment. I know enough. She studied him in the moonlight, and Noah could see her mind working, trying to place him, trying to fit the pieces together. Why are you really doing this? She asked. And don't say $2. Nobody does this for $2. Noah leaned against the railing beside her, their shoulders almost touching. He could tell her now, should tell her. But something stopped him. Maybe the night air, maybe the way she was looking at him, maybe the fact that he wanted just a little longer before everything changed. Maybe I believe in second chances, he said instead. Second chances at what? At everything. At being seen for who you actually are instead of who people expect you to be. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Music drifted from the ballroom, muffled and distant. I did know you, she said finally. Didn't I? Yes. When? A long time ago. Different people, different lives. Tell me. Noah turned to face her fully, and Vivian did the same, and they stood there on the terrace with the party going on without them, the city spread out below like a carpet of lights. Not yet, he said. Let's just have tonight first. Tomorrow I'll tell you everything. But tonight, he offered his hand. Tonight, let's just be two people at a wedding. Vivian looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. One condition, she said. Name it. Tomorrow, when you tell me everything, you also tell me your last name. Noah smiled. Deal. They went back inside, back to the party that was starting to wind down, back to a world where they were playing pretend even though it felt increasingly real. At midnight, Noah walked Vivian to her car, a modest sedan that had clearly seen better years, nothing like what he would have expected a Hale to drive. Fell on hard times? He asked, nodding at the car. Sold the Mercedes last year, needed the money. Turns out family fortunes aren't actually forever. She unlocked the door but didn't get in. Thank you, for tonight, for all of it. You were... She trailed off, searching for the right word. $2 well spent? She laughed. The best $2 I've ever spent. So you want a refund? Absolutely not. She looked at him seriously. Tomorrow. You promised. Tomorrow, Noah agreed. He watched her drive away, her taillights disappearing into the Manhattan night. Then he pulled out his phone and called Mrs. Chen, who reported that Lily was asleep and everything was fine. Noah drove home slowly, windows down, letting the night air clear his head. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Vivian would know the truth. But tonight he'd stood in a ballroom at the Plaza Hotel, held Vivian Hale in his arms, and defended her honor against her own father. Tonight, for the first time in 14 years, Noah felt like maybe the wound she'd left all those years ago was finally starting to heal. Or maybe it was just starting to open again. He'd find out soon enough. Noah woke Sunday morning to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window and Lily jumping on his bed. Daddy, Mrs. Chen made pancakes and she says you're still sleeping like a lazy bear. He groaned, catching his daughter mid-bounce and pulling her down into a hug. What time is it? Almost noon. You never sleep this late. Were you out dancing with princesses? Noah laughed despite his exhaustion. Something like that. By the time he made it to the kitchen, showered and marginally human, Mrs. Chen had indeed made pancakes, a full stack waiting on the counter, still warm. You look terrible, she said cheerfully. Good wedding? Complicated wedding. The best kind. She patted his shoulder. Eat. Then whatever trouble you got yourself into, deal with it on a full stomach. Noah ate, played blocks with Lily, and tried not to check his phone every 5 minutes. Vivian hadn't texted, hadn't called. Maybe she'd woken up and realized the whole thing was insane. Maybe she'd decided she didn't actually want to know who he was. His phone buzzed at 2:30. Coffee? Same place as before. 3 p.m. You owe me answers. Noah stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. See you there. He kissed Lily goodbye, promised Mrs. Chen he'd be back by dinner, and drove to Morrison's cafe with his heart doing uncomfortable things in his chest. Vivian was already there when he arrived, sitting at the same table by the window. But this time she had a proper latte in front of her, $4.50, not $2. She'd changed from last night's elegant dress into jeans and a sweater, her hair down around her shoulders, minimal makeup. She looked younger like this, more real. She looked up when he walked in, and Noah saw the determination in her eyes. This wasn't going to be easy. He bought a coffee he didn't want and sat down across from her. So, Vivian said without preamble, who are you really? Noah pulled out his wallet, extracted the $2 bills. He'd kept them separate from everything else, and set them on the table between them. My name is Noah Bennett. 14 years ago, I was a scholarship student at Westbrook High. You were a junior. I was a senior. He watched her face carefully, saw the moment recognition started to dawn. Not full memory yet, but the beginning of it, like a shape emerging from fog. I had a crush on you for most of that year, Noah continued. You were smart, funny when you wanted to be, completely out of my league. I finally worked up the courage to ask you to the spring dance. Vivian's eyes widened. Her hand went to her mouth. You said, Noah's voice was steady, but he could feel the old wound underneath it, still tender after all these years. You said you didn't date charity cases. You said it loud enough for your friends to hear. Loud enough to make sure I understood exactly where I stood. Oh my God. Vivian's voice was barely a whisper. The library. You asked me in the library. Outside the library, during lunch. You had this terrible haircut, and you wore this jacket that was 2 sizes too big. She was staring at him now, really seeing him, and Noah watched as memory and present reality collided in her expression. I was such a bitch. You were 18 and privileged and didn't know any better. That's not an excuse. Vivian's hands were shaking slightly. She wrapped them around her coffee cup. I was cruel. I knew I was being cruel. I did it anyway because my friends were watching and I wanted them to think I was funny. She looked up at him, and there were tears gathering in her eyes. I'm so sorry. Noah, I'm so sorry. I know. You knew who I was, yesterday. You knew the whole time. Yes. And you came anyway. You stood up to my father. You defended me. Her voice cracked. Why? Why would you do that after what I did to you? Noah leaned back in his chair, trying to find the right words. Because people change. Because I wanted to see if you'd recognize me. Because, he paused. Because I spent 14 years building myself into someone who couldn't be dismissed. And then when I saw you in here last week, looking like your world was falling apart over $2 coffee, I realized maybe we'd both ended up in places we never expected. Vivian was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. She didn't try to hide them or wipe them away. I don't deserve your kindness. Probably not, but I gave it anyway. They sat in silence for a moment. The cafe was busier than it had been last week. A few other customers scattered at tables, the barista humming along to whatever was playing through her earbuds. Tell me what happened, Vivian said finally. After high school. How did you become this? She gestured at him vaguely. So Noah told her. Not everything. Not the full extent of his wealth, not the specific details of his business empire. But he told her about community college, about teaching himself to code in the library, about his first startup that barely made enough to cover rent. He told her about meeting Sarah, falling in love, Lily's birth. He told her about Sarah leaving, about single parenthood, about building something real while keeping it all carefully hidden. Vivian listened without interrupting, and Noah could see her putting pieces together, reevaluating everything she thought she knew. So last night, she said when he finished, when you walked into that wedding looking like you owned the place, you kind of did, didn't you? Own places like that, I mean. I've been to the plaza for business meetings. I know how to move in those spaces. And the toast, standing up to my father, that wasn't just bravery, that was power. Noah didn't deny it. Vivian laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. This is insane. I hired a billionaire for $2 to be my fake boyfriend. I'm not a billionaire. How close? Noah hesitated, then decided she deserved honesty. Close enough. Jesus. Vivian put her head in her hands. This is the most humiliating thing that's ever happened to me. And I've had a lot of humiliating things happen. Why is it humiliating? Because you're... She gestured at him again. You're you, successful and powerful and put together. And I'm the woman who works at a restaurant. Worked, past tense. I got fired, remember? Because your boss is an idiot. Because I showed up in the papers as your date and it made me look like I was too good for their establishment. Vivian's voice was bitter. Which is ironic, considering I'm currently unemployed and living off the last of my savings. Noah pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, and set it back down. What was that? Vivian asked suspiciously. Email to my assistant. You're hired. Excuse me? You need a job. I need someone who can handle difficult people, think on their feet, and isn't afraid to call me on my bullshit. Seems like a match. Vivian stared at him. You can't just hire me. I literally just did. Noah? Vivian. He leaned forward. You can say no. But don't say no because you think you don't deserve it, or because it's charity, or because you're embarrassed. Say no if you genuinely don't want the job. Otherwise, shut up and accept help when it's offered. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. What would I even do? Whatever needs doing. I have about 15 projects running at any given time. Some of them need managing, some need strategy. All of them need someone who can handle the kind of people who think money means they're always right. I don't have experience in tech. You have experience dealing with entitled assholes. Same skill set, different venue. Vivian laughed despite herself. You're serious? Completely. She was quiet for a long moment, and Noah could see the war happening behind her eyes. Pride versus practicality, stubbornness versus survival. Okay, she said finally, but I want a real salary, market rate, no charity. Deal. Start Monday? Monday. She shook her head slowly. This is insane. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. Vivian looked at him, really looked at him, and Noah felt the weight of that gaze. Why are you doing this? Really? Not the surface answer, the real reason. Noah considered lying, considered giving her something easy and uncomplicated. But Vivian had cried in front of him, had apologized for something that happened 14 years ago, had asked for honesty. She deserved it back. Because when I saw you last week, You reminded me of myself, he said quietly. Not the billionaire part. The part before that. When I was struggling and angry and so damn tired of pretending everything was fine, you reminded me what it feels like to be smart and capable and completely out of options. He paused. And because maybe I wanted to see if the girl who broke my heart could recognize the man I became. And? Vivian's voice was soft. Did she? Not at first, but she's looking at me now. Something shifted in the air between them. The cafe noise faded into background static. Vivian's eyes were locked on his, and Noah could see 1,000 emotions flickering across her face. Regret, curiosity, something that might have been hope. I don't know what to do with this, she whispered. With you. With any of it. Neither do I. We barely know each other. We knew each other 14 years ago. We were different people 14 years ago. So let's figure out who we are now. Vivian's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression shifted to something like panic. What's wrong? She turned the phone toward him. The screen showed a news article. Mystery Man steals show at Hale wedding. Below it was a photo of Noah and Vivian dancing, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her waist. They looked intimate. They looked real. It gets worse, Vivian said, scrolling down. The article was full of speculation. Who was Vivian Hale's mysterious date? Where had he come from? Sources close to the family suggested he might be someone significant in the business world, but his identity remained unknown. They don't know who you are, Vivian said. They got photos but no name, which means it's only a matter of time before… Noah's phone started ringing. He looked at the screen, his business partner, Daniel. I need to take this. He stepped outside. Daniel's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Please tell me you didn't actually attend the Hale wedding. I attended the Hale wedding. Noah! Jesus, do you know what you've done? The press is going crazy trying to figure out who you are. If they connect you to the company, they won't. You don't know that. One person who recognizes you. One photo that gets run through the right database. Your whole carefully constructed anonymity falls apart. Daniel wasn't wrong. Noah had built his business empire specifically to avoid this kind of attention. Kept his name out of press releases. Used proxies for public appearances. Stayed invisible by design. One night at a wedding with Vivian Hale had put all of that at risk. I'll handle it, Noah said. How? I don't know yet, but I will. He hung up and went back inside. Vivian was still staring at her phone, her expression a mix of horror and resignation. This is my fault, she said when he sat down. I asked you to come. I put you in the spotlight. Now your privacy is compromised. I knew the risks. Did you? Because I'm not sure I did. She set her phone down. My family is already calling. My mother wants to know who you are. My father's business partners are asking questions. Even my sister texted, her sister, on her wedding day, wanting details. Noah could see where this was going. Could see Vivian building walls, preparing to push him away to protect him from the mess that was her life. He wasn't going to let her. Come with me, he said, standing up. Where? You'll see. Trust me. Vivian hesitated, then grabbed her purse and followed him out to his car, the modest 10-year-old sedan that didn't match anything about the man she was slowly realizing he was. This is your car? She asked. Disappointed? Confused. You could afford anything. Why this? Noah started the engine. Because the car isn't the point. Getting where I'm going is the point. He drove them out of the city, through neighborhoods that went from commercial to residential to industrial and back again. Vivian didn't ask where they were going, just watched the city slide past her window and occasionally glanced at Noah like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Finally, he pulled up to a building in the financial district, all glass and steel, aggressively modern, the kind of building that screamed money without having to say a word. What is this? Vivian asked. My office. Your office. One of them. He led her inside through a lobby where the security guard greeted him by name, up an elevator that required a key card to access the top floor. The doors opened directly into a penthouse office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. Vivian walked slowly into the space, turning in a circle. This is where you work. Sometimes, when I need to be visible. Noah loosened his tie. Most of the time I work from home, or coffee shops, or anywhere that's not here. Why show me this? Noah crossed to his desk and picked up a framed photograph, him and Lily at the park, her on his shoulders, both of them laughing. Because I want you to understand something. I have money. I have power. I have all the things I thought I needed when I was 18 and you rejected me. He set the photo down. None of it matters if I have to pretend to be someone else to keep it. Vivian was quiet, absorbing this. The press is going to figure out who I am eventually, Noah continued. When they do, my carefully constructed privacy disappears. People will have opinions. They'll make assumptions. They'll write articles about the billionaire who pretended to be ordinary. He turned to face her fully. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is you thinking any of this was about revenge or proving something. It wasn't. It isn't. Then what is it about? Noah crossed the space between them until he was standing close enough to see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. It's about the fact that when I saw you in that cafe, something in my chest recognized something in yours. It's about the fact that you're the first person in years who's made me want to stop hiding. It's about... He stopped, searching for the right words. It's about second chances, Vivian finished softly. Yeah, it's about that. She reached up slowly, her hand trembling slightly, and touched his face. Noah went very still, letting her trace the line of his jaw, his cheekbone, like she was memorizing him through touch. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of hurting you again. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Of not being enough. Noah caught her hand, held it against his face. You think I'm not scared? Vivian, I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what could have happened. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? They stood like that, suspended in possibility, the city spreading out below them like a promise. Then Vivian's phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again. And again? You should answer that, Noah said. She pulled away reluctantly and looked at the screen. It's my mother. Third time she's called. Answer it. Vivian did, putting the phone on speaker. Catherine Hale's voice filled the office, sharp and demanding. Vivian, where are you? I've been calling all day. I'm out, Mother. What do you need? What do I need? I need to know who that man was. The one you brought to your sister's wedding. The one all over the society pages this morning. Vivian glanced at Noah. He nodded. His name is Noah Bennett. Bennett? I don't know any Bennetts. What does he do? He's in tech. How much is he worth? Vivian's jaw tightened. I don't know, Mother. We haven't discussed his portfolio. Well, you need to. Your father wants to meet him. Properly. He thinks there might be opportunities for business collaboration. Noah shook his head emphatically. Vivian understood. Noah's not interested in business with father. Don't be ridiculous. Everyone's interested in business with your father. Not Noah. Sorry, Mother. I have to go. She hung up before Catherine could respond. The silence in the office felt heavy. That was satisfying, Vivian said. Was it? Immensely. I never hang up on her. She looked at her phone like it might bite her. She's going to call back. Let her. Noah, you don't understand. My family. They're going to want things from you now. Access. Connections. Money. My father especially. He's in debt up to his eyeballs and barely holding on. If he thinks you're someone who can save him, he can think whatever he wants. I'm not interested in saving Richard Hale. He won't accept that easily. Then he'll learn to accept it the hard way. Vivian laughed shakily. You really have changed. The boy I remember would never have stood up to someone like my father. That boy doesn't exist anymore. No. She looked at him with something like wonder. He really doesn't. Noah's phone buzzed, text from Mrs. Chen. Lily asking when you're coming home. I told her soon, but she's giving me the face. He showed Vivian the message. I need to get back. My daughter has perfected the art of the guilt-inducing stare. You're a good dad. I try. They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. But when they reached the lobby, Vivian caught his arm. Monday. When I start working for you, we need ground rules. Such as? Professional boundaries, no special treatment because of this. She gestured between them. Whatever this is. Agreed. And I pay my own way. No expensive gifts, no sudden mysterious deposits in my bank account. I'm serious, Noah. I believe you. Good. She released his arm. Take me back to my car? He did, driving through the Sunday afternoon traffic while Vivian stared out the window. When they reached Morrison's cafe, she didn't get out immediately. Thank you, she said, for telling me the truth, for not letting me run away. I learned from the best. You ran away from me once. I'm not giving you the chance to do it again. She smiled, leaned over, and kissed his cheek. See you Monday, boss. Noah watched her get into her car and drive away, touching his cheek where her lips had been. His phone rang again. Daniel. Tell me you figured out damage control. I'm working on it. Work faster. Someone just posted a photo from the wedding to Reddit. People are already trying to figure out who you are. Noah closed his eyes. How long do we have? Days, maybe less. Your face is out there now, Noah. It's only a matter of time. Then we go public. Controlled release. My terms. Are you sure? No, Noah wasn't sure about anything anymore. But he was tired of hiding, tired of splitting himself into versions, tired of living like his success was something shameful. I'm sure. Set up a press conference for Wednesday. I'll release a statement. And the Hale connection? Noah thought about Vivian's face when she realized who he was. Thought about the way she'd touched his face in his office. Thought about Monday, when she'd walk into his office as his employee and try to pretend this thing between them was purely professional. The Hale connection is personal. Keep it out of the official statement. That's not going to stop people from speculating. Let them speculate. My private life stays private. He hung up and sat in his car outside the cafe where this had all started, where 2 crumpled dollar bills had bought him a night that changed everything. His phone buzzed with a text. Vivian. I forgot to ask. What's my salary? Noah smiled and typed back, more than $2. Her response came immediately. That's not very specific, trust me. You'll be happy. I'm choosing to believe you. Don't make me regret it. Noah pocketed his phone and drove home. Monday morning arrived too quickly and too slowly. Noah dropped Lily at school, dodged her questions about the wedding. Did the princess marry the prince? Was there cake? Did you dance? And arrived at his office at 8:30. Vivian was already there, sitting in the reception area, wearing a professional dress and an expression of determined confidence that didn't quite hide her nerves. You're early, Noah said. I'm unemployed. Was unemployed. Past tense. I wanted to make a good impression. You made a good impression last Saturday when you cried over $2 coffee and hired a stranger. That's not a professional qualification. Maybe it should be. He led her through the office, smaller than the penthouse, more functional, where his actual staff worked. This is headquarters, 20 people on staff, another 50 working remotely. We do software development, AI integration, some investment management. He introduced her to people as they went. His assistant, Sarah, who raised an eyebrow when she saw Vivian but said nothing. His CFO, Marcus, who definitely wasn't the same Marcus from the wedding. His head of development, Karen, who looked like she hadn't slept in a week. This is Vivian Hale, Noah said. She's going to be handling special projects and client relations. Good, Karen said immediately. Because I have 3 clients who think their deadlines are negotiable and 1 who wants us to build the impossible by Thursday. They're all yours. Vivian blinked. Okay? Welcome to the team. Karen was already walking away, typing on her phone. Noah showed Vivian to her office, modest but real, with a window and a door that closed and a computer that actually worked. Client list is on the shared drive, he said. Passwords are in the welcome email. If you have questions, ask. If someone gives you trouble, tell me. If you want to quit after the first day, I'll understand. Vivian set down her bag and turned to face him. Ground rules, remember? Professional. This is professional. You're standing very close. Noah realized she was right. He stepped back. Sorry. Professional distance. Got it. Noah, her voice softened. This has to work. The job part. If we're going to figure out the other part, the US part, I need to prove I can do this without special treatment. You don't need to prove anything. Yes, I do. To myself, if no one else. She met his eyes. Please, let me earn this. So Noah left her to her office and tried to focus on his own work. Tried, and mostly failed, because he kept finding excuses to walk past her door to check if she needed anything, to see how she was settling in. By noon, Vivian had already handled 2 angry clients and negotiated a deadline extension on a project Karen swore was impossible. By 3, she'd reorganized the entire client communication system and sent Noah a memo about inefficiencies in their response protocol. At 5, she appeared in his doorway looking exhausted and triumphant. "I survived day 1. Congratulations. Dinner to celebrate?" Vivian hesitated. "Is that professional? Does it matter?" "Yes. No. Maybe." She rubbed her temples. "I don't know anymore. My brain is full of client demands and software specifications, and I'm pretty sure Karen thinks I'm insane." "Karen thinks everyone's insane. It's her default setting." "Then we'll get along fine." Vivian leaned against the doorframe. "Dinner sounds good, but somewhere quiet. I've had enough noise for one day." Noah knew exactly where to take her. 40 minutes later, they were sitting in a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn that Noah had discovered years ago when he was still building his first company. The owner, Antonio, greeted Noah like family and showed them to a corner booth without asking questions. "You come here often?" Vivian asked, studying the menu. "Used to, when I was starting out and couldn't afford much else. Antonio let me eat on credit more times than I can count. You could buy this whole place now." "I offered. He said no. Said if I bought it, I'd ruin it by making it fancy." Vivian smiled. "I like Antonio." They ordered. Pasta for her, risotto for him, wine that Antonio brought without being asked. The restaurant was quiet, just a few other tables, the kind of place where you could actually have a conversation without shouting. "So," Vivian said when the wine arrived, "Wednesday, your press conference. You heard about that? Sarah mentioned it. Said you're finally going public with your identity." Noah nodded. "Tired of hiding, and someone's going to figure it out anyway. Might as well control the narrative." "Are you nervous?" "Terrified." "You don't look terrified." "I've had practice hiding it." Vivian took a sip of wine. "What are you going to say?" "About me. About the wedding. The truth. That we're friends. That you're working for my company. That my personal life is personal. They're not going to accept that. Not after the photos. Then they'll have to learn to live with disappointment." Their food arrived, and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Noah watched Vivian relax incrementally, the tension leaving her shoulders, the professional mask slipping to reveal someone softer underneath. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Always. Why did you really hire me? And don't say it's because I'm qualified. We both know there are people with more experience." Noah set down his fork. "Because you're smart. Because you're not afraid to tell powerful people they're wrong. Because you survived your family and came out the other side still capable of kindness." He paused. "And because I wanted to see if we could build something real out of something that started as pretend." Vivian's eyes were bright. "That's a lot to put on a job. It's not about the job is the job. This," he gestured between them, "this is something else. What if I mess it up? The job, or this, or both? Then we figure it out, together." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm still scared." "Good. Means it matters." They finished dinner and Noah drove Vivian back to her apartment, a modest one-bedroom in a neighborhood that was trying hard to be gentrified. He walked her to her door even though she insisted it wasn't necessary. "Old-fashioned," she teased. "Practical. This neighborhood isn't great after dark." "My hero." But she was smiling. At her door, they stood in the hallway with its flickering fluorescent light, neither quite ready for the night to end. "Thank you," Vivian said. "For dinner, for the job, for everything." "You already thanked me." "I know, but I keep needing to say it." Noah touched her face gently, and Vivian leaned into his palm. "You don't owe me gratitude, Vivian." "What do I owe you?" "Nothing. That's the point." She kissed him then, not his cheek this time, but his mouth, soft and tentative and over too quickly. When she pulled back, her cheeks were flushed. "That was unprofessional," she whispered, "completely inappropriate." "Should we have an HR meeting about it?" "Definitely." Noah smiled. "Tomorrow, my office. We'll discuss proper workplace boundaries. I'll prepare a presentation. I look forward to it. He waited until she was inside with the door locked before heading back to his car. Drove home with his heart doing complicated things and his mind already planning Wednesday's press conference. 2 days to figure out how to explain himself to the world. 2 days before everything changed again. Noah parked in his building's garage, took the elevator up, and found Mrs. Chen asleep on his couch with Lily curled against her, both of them watching some animated movie with the volume turned low. He gently woke Mrs. Chen, paid her for the evening, and carried his daughter to bed. She stirred slightly when he tucked her in. "Daddy?" "Yeah, Ladybug?" "Did you have a good day?" Noah thought about Vivian in his office, competent and determined, thought about dinner, about the kiss in the hallway, about the way forward that was terrifying and inevitable. "Yeah," he said softly. "I had a really good day." "Good." Lily yawned and turned over. "Love you, Daddy?" "Love you too." He stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her sleep, before finally heading to his own room. Wednesday was coming, and with it, everything would change. Wednesday morning arrived, wrapped in rain and gray skies that matched Noah's mood perfectly. He'd spent Tuesday night rehearsing what he'd say at the press conference, scrapping draft after draft, until finally giving up and deciding to speak from the heart. Assuming his heart cooperated and didn't crawl up into his throat the moment the cameras turned on. Lily had been difficult at breakfast, sensing something was off, clinging to him longer than usual when he dropped her at school. "You seem sad, Daddy." "Not sad, Ladybug, just nervous." "About what?" "About telling people something important." She'd hugged him fiercely. "You're the bravest person I know. You can do anything." Noah carried that with him as he drove to the office, parked in the underground garage, and took the elevator up to find his entire staff already assembled in the conference room. Vivian stood near the back, her arms crossed, wearing a navy dress that made her look both professional and untouchable. Their eyes met across the room, and she gave him a small nod of encouragement. Daniel stood at the front, looking harried. "Okay, everyone's here. Noah, the press is already gathering downstairs. We've got representatives from the Times, the Journal, Bloomberg, TechCrunch, and about a dozen other outlets. They're hungry for this story." "Let them be hungry," Noah said, loosening his tie slightly. "We're doing this on our terms." Sarah handed him a bottle of water. "Statements on the podium if you need it, but honestly, you're better when you don't read from notes." Noah nodded, taking a long drink. The water tasted like anxiety. 5 minutes, Daniel said, checking his watch. "Everyone ready?" Ready was a strong word. Noah felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump without knowing if there was water below or just rocks. But he'd built his entire life on calculated risks. This was just one more. They filed downstairs to the building's media room, a space Noah had only used twice before, both times for product launches where he'd sent someone else to do the talking. Now the room was packed with reporters, cameras, recording equipment, the hungry energy of people who sensed a story. Noah stepped up to the podium, and the room went quiet. He looked out at the sea of faces, some familiar from business coverage, most strangers. Microphones bristled in front of him like a small forest. Somewhere in the back, Vivian stood against the wall, her expression carefully neutral. "Good morning," Noah said, and his voice was steadier than he felt. "Thank you for coming. I know there's been speculation about my identity following some recent photographs, so I'm here to set the record straight." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "My name is Noah Bennett. I'm the founder and CEO of Bennett Technologies, which owns or has stakes in several companies across the tech sector. For the past 12 years, I've deliberately maintained a low profile, keeping my personal identity separate from my business interests. This was a choice I made to protect my privacy and my family." A hand shot up. Noah ignored it. "I'm going public now because that privacy is no longer sustainable, and frankly because I'm tired of hiding. I built this company from nothing. I'm proud of what we've created, and I shouldn't have to pretend to be someone else to maintain that." Another pause. He could feel the questions building like pressure in the room. "I won't be taking questions about my personal life, my family, or my relationships. Those remain private. But I'm happy to discuss Bennett Technologies, our current projects, and our plans for the future." The room erupted. Hands everywhere, voices calling out, cameras flashing. Noah pointed to a woman in the front row he recognized from TechCrunch. Mr. Bennett, can you confirm that Bennett Technologies is behind the AI integration software that revolutionized logistics for 3 Fortune 500 companies last year? I can confirm that, yes. And the estimated value of your holdings? Noah smiled slightly. I don't discuss specific numbers, but the estimates you've seen online are in the ballpark. A man from Bloomberg. Why hide for so long? Most people in your position seek publicity. Oh, most people in my position didn't grow up the way I did. I learned early that wealth without privacy is a prison. I wanted to build something real without the noise. But you're creating noise now by going public. The noise was already there. I'm just choosing to control it. More questions came rapid fire about his business strategy, his investments, his plans for expansion. Noah answered what he could, deflected what he couldn't, and kept his responses measured and professional. Then someone from the society pages called out, "Is it true you're dating Vivian Hale?" Noah's jaw tightened. As I said, my personal life is private. But you attended her sister's wedding. There are photographs of you together. You can't deny that. I'm not denying anything. I'm declining to discuss it. Next question. Is Ms. Hale here today? Can we speak with her? Noah's eyes found Vivian in the back. She'd gone pale, her arms wrapped around herself like armor. No, he said firmly. And anyone who approaches her without her consent will be removed from this building. She's not part of this story. But she works for your company now, doesn't she? That's a conflict of interest if you're romantically involved. Ms. Hale is an employee, a valued one. That's all you need to know. Noah's voice had gone cold. This press conference is about Bennett Technologies. Not my personal relationships, not my employees. If that's all you're interested in, we're done here. The room settled slightly, journalists exchanging glances, recalculating their approach. Noah took a few more questions about business, upcoming projects, hiring plans, market strategy. But he could feel the energy in the room, the disappointment that he wasn't giving them the personal drama they really wanted. After 30 minutes, Daniel stepped in. That's all we have time for today. Thank you, everyone. Noah left the podium quickly, ignoring the shouted follow-up questions, and headed straight for the elevator. Vivian caught up with him in the hallway. That was intense, she said quietly. That was hell. Noah stabbed the elevator button. I'm sorry they brought you into it. It was inevitable. We knew it would happen. The elevator arrived. They stepped in, and as soon as the doors closed, Noah let out a long breath. You okay? Vivian asked. Ask me tomorrow when my hand stops shaking. She reached out and took one of his hands. It was shaking. She held it between both of hers, steady and warm. You did good, she said. You told them the truth without giving them ammunition. That takes skill. It didn't feel like skill. Felt like drowning while pretending to swim. The elevator opened on their floor. The staff had gathered, and when they saw Noah, they broke into applause. He was so surprised he just stood there. Sarah stepped forward. That was amazing, especially the part where you basically told the society reporter to back off. She deserved it, Karen added, trying to make this about gossip instead of business. Please. Noah managed a smile. Thanks, everyone. Let's get back to work before our clients forget we exist. The crowd dispersed, but Sarah caught his arm. Your phone's been blowing up. Your business partner, your investors, and someone claiming to be Vivian's father. Noah's stomach dropped. Richard Hale called 3 times, left messages, sounded determined. Noah looked at Vivian. Her face had gone carefully blank. I'll handle it, she said. Viv, no, this is my problem, my family. I'll handle it. She walked to her office and closed the door. Noah stood in the hallway, torn between respecting her wishes and knowing that Richard Hale was exactly the kind of man who would make this as difficult as possible. His phone rang. Daniel. You're trending on Twitter, Daniel said without preamble. Number 3 nationwide. People are losing their minds trying to figure out how they never knew about you. Great, that's exactly what I wanted. Bloomberg wants an exclusive interview, so does the Times, and someone from Forbes called about a profile. Tell them no. Noah, this is good press. We should capitalize on it. I don't want to capitalize on it. I wanted to control the narrative, not feed the beast. Daniel sighed. Fine, I'll put them off. But this isn't going away. You're interesting now. The mysterious billionaire who appeared out of nowhere, they're going to dig. Let them dig. They won't find anything we don't want them to find. After he hung up, Noah went to his office and tried to work. Tried and failed because his mind kept drifting to Vivian behind her closed door, probably dealing with her father's calls, probably building walls to keep Noah out of the mess. An hour later, Vivian appeared in his doorway. She looked tired. "I'm leaving early," she said. "Family situation." "What kind of situation?" "The kind where my father shows up at my apartment building demanding to know why I'm not returning his calls and threatening to make a scene if I don't talk to him." Noah stood up. "I'll come with you." "No." "Vivian." "No, Noah. This is my family, my disaster. I don't need you riding in to rescue me." "I'm not trying to rescue you. I'm trying to support you." "By doing what?" "Standing there while my father tries to manipulate me into giving him access to your money, while he calculates exactly how much you're worth and how much of that he can extract." Her voice was rising. "This is why I didn't want to work for you. This is why I said we needed boundaries. Because now everything's tangled up and I can't tell where the job ends and we begin, and my family is going to ruin it all." Noah crossed to her, slowly, giving her space to back away if she wanted. She didn't. "Your family can't ruin anything unless we let them," he said quietly. "You're not responsible for your father's debts or your family's expectations. You're responsible for you. That's it. You don't understand. He'll make this ugly. He'll tell people you're taking advantage of me, or I'm using you, or some version of events where we both end up looking like we're playing games. Then we tell a different story, the true one." "Which is what exactly?" Vivian's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "What's the true story, Noah? Because I'm not even sure I know anymore." The question hung between them, heavy with everything they hadn't said, everything they were both too scared to name. Noah took a breath. "The true story is that I saw you in a coffee shop having the worst day of your life, and something in me recognized something in you. The true story is that I should have walked away, but I didn't, because for the first time in 14 years, I wanted to see if the person who hurt me had become someone who could understand hurt. The true story is..." He stopped, steadying himself. "The true story is that somewhere between $2 and now, this stopped being about the past and started being about something I'm not ready to lose." Vivian stared at him. A single tear escaped, running down her cheek. "I'm going to mess this up," she whispered. "Probably. I will too. But at least we'll do it together." She laughed, wet and broken. "You're supposed to reassure me that everything will be fine." "Everything won't be fine. Your father's waiting at your apartment. The press is going to be relentless. We work together, which is complicated, and neither of us knows what the hell we're doing. That's a terrible pep talk. I'm terrible at pep talks." Noah reached out and wiped the tear from her cheek. "But I'm good at showing up, so I'm coming with you to deal with your father. Not because you can't handle it alone, but because you shouldn't have to." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. They took Noah's car, driving through afternoon traffic to Vivian's neighborhood. Sure enough, Richard Hale's Mercedes was parked outside her building, illegally, blocking a fire hydrant, because men like Richard Hale didn't worry about parking tickets. Richard himself was pacing on the sidewalk, phone to his ear, gesturing emphatically. He looked older than he had at the wedding, more worn, the kind of aging that comes from stress and poor decisions compounding over years. He saw them approaching and ended his call immediately. "Vivian, finally, I've been calling all day." "I know, Father. I was working." "Working?" Richard's eyes shifted to Noah, and his expression changed to something calculating and false-friendly. "Mr. Bennett, what a pleasant surprise." "Mr. Hale," Noah's voice was neutral, "I was hoping we could all sit down and talk, get to know each other better. After all, if you're involved with my daughter, we should be acquainted." "We're not having this conversation on the street," Vivian said firmly. "Come upstairs, both of you." Vivian's apartment was small but carefully maintained, decorated with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together and books stacked on every available surface. Richard looked around with barely concealed disdain. "This is where you're living? Vivian, this is unacceptable. You're a Hale. I should be making my own choices," Vivian interrupted, "which is exactly what I'm doing. Now, what do you want?" Richard settled onto the couch without being invited, spreading out like he owned the space. "I want to discuss opportunities. I understand Mr. Bennett here is quite successful in the tech sector. I have some business interests that could benefit from that kind of expertise. I'm not interested, Noah said flatly. You haven't even heard what I'm proposing. Don't need to. I don't mix business with personal relationships. Richard's smile sharpened. Is that what this is? A personal relationship? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my daughter is working for you, which suggests the relationship is already quite mixed. Father, Vivian started. I'm just saying, it's all very convenient. Vivian loses her job, suddenly you appear, wealthy and available. Then she's employed by your company. Makes one wonder about the nature of the arrangement. Noah felt his anger spike, cold and controlled. If you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, Mr. Hale, you should choose your next words very carefully. I'm suggesting nothing. I'm simply observing that appearances matter. And the appearance is that my daughter has attached herself to a wealthy man very quickly after a difficult period. Get out! Vivian's voice cut through the room like a blade. Get out of my apartment right now. Richard blinked, surprised. Vivian, no, you don't get to do this. You don't get to come here and insult me and imply that I'm some kind of opportunist. You don't get to treat Noah like he's a resource to be exploited. And you certainly don't get to pretend you care about my reputation when you're here trying to use me to access his money. I'm your father. I have a right to be concerned about who you're associating with. You're the man who gambled away the family fortune and blamed everyone but himself. You're the man who treated me like a disappointment my entire life because I wouldn't play your social games. You're the man who stood at my sister's wedding and publicly humiliated me. Vivian's voice was shaking now, but not with fear, with rage. You don't get to suddenly play the concerned parent. Not with me. Not anymore. Richard stood up, his face red. You're making a mistake. You think he actually cares about you? Men like him don't marry women like you. They use them until someone better comes along. Noah stepped forward, placing himself between Richard and Vivian. Leave. Now. Before I have you removed. This is my daughter's apartment. You can't— Actually, he can, Vivian said coldly, because I'm asking you to leave. And if you don't, I'm calling the police. Richard looked between them, calculating, weighing his options. Finally, he grabbed his coat. You're going to regret this, Vivian, both of you. The press is going to tear you apart. They already think you're a gold digger. Wait until they really start digging. Then let them dig, Vivian said. They won't find anything, because there's nothing to find. Just two people trying to figure things out while the world watches. Richard left, slamming the door hard enough to make the walls shake. The silence he left behind felt enormous. Vivian stood frozen for a moment, then slowly sank down onto the couch, her hands shaking. Noah sat beside her, not touching, just present. I can't believe I just did that, she said. You were amazing. I was terrified. Terrified and amazing aren't mutually exclusive. She laughed weakly. He's going to make trouble. He meant what he said about the press. Let him try. We're not hiding. Vivian turned to look at him. You keep saying that. We. Like it's a given. Isn't it? I don't know. Is it? She searched his face. What are we doing, Noah? Really? No deflection. No clever answers. What is this? Noah took her hand, lacing their fingers together. This is me realizing that for the first time in 14 years, I'm not pretending. This is you being brave enough to let someone see you. This is us being scared and doing it anyway. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. It's just not a simple one. Vivian leaned her head against his shoulder, and Noah wrapped his arm around her. They sat like that for a long time, while the afternoon light faded outside and the city noise filtered through the windows. I should probably go, Noah said eventually. Lily's expecting me for dinner. Right, Lily, your daughter who I haven't met and probably never will, because that would make this real. Noah pulled back to look at her. Do you want to meet her? Vivian froze. What? Do you want to meet Lily? Because if this is going somewhere, eventually you'll need to, and I don't introduce people to my daughter unless they matter. Noah, I don't know anything about kids. What if she hates me? What if I'm terrible at it? Then you'll be terrible at it, and we'll figure it out. Kids are resilient. He smiled slightly. Besides, she's been asking about the wedding, about the princess. I think she's already building a fantasy version of you in her head. That's terrifying. Welcome to parenting. Well, Vivian was quiet, and Noah could see her mind working, weighing risks and possibilities. Okay, she said finally, not today, but soon. Maybe this weekend? Saturday. We usually go to the park. You could join us, low pressure, no big announcement, just hanging out. Hanging out with a 7-year-old and her billionaire father. Very casual. Noah stood up, pulling her with him. You're overthinking this. I'm absolutely overthinking this. But she was smiling now. Go, before Lily sends out a search party. He kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then hesitated at her mouth. Vivian closed the distance, kissing him properly, deeply, in a way that made his chest ache. See you tomorrow, she whispered against his lips. Tomorrow, he agreed. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and media attention and stolen moments. Noah's press conference had achieved exactly what he'd hoped. It satisfied the public's curiosity enough to take the edge off their hunger while maintaining his privacy. Articles appeared analyzing his business strategy, his rise from nothing, his impressive portfolio. But the personal questions persisted, especially about Vivian. She handled it with grace Noah hadn't expected. When reporters called the office, she politely declined comment. When someone from a tabloid showed up at her apartment building, she walked past them without acknowledging their existence. She was building walls, yes, but they were good walls, protective ones. At work, they maintained professional distance. She was competent, sharp, exactly what the company needed. But there were moments. A glance across the conference room, her hand brushing his when she handed him a file. The way she smiled when she thought no one was watching. That made it impossible to pretend this was just business. Friday afternoon, Vivian knocked on Noah's office door. Got a minute? Always. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it. I've been thinking about tomorrow. The park. Meeting Lily. Second thoughts? About 1,000 of them. She crossed to his desk and sat on the edge of it, something she would never do if this were purely professional. What if I say the wrong thing? What if she asks about us and I don't know how to answer? Then you tell her the truth, that we're figuring it out. 7-year-olds need more certainty than that. 7-year-olds are smarter than we give them credit for. They can handle complexity. Noah reached out and took her hand. Lily knows I care about you. She'll take her cues from that. You told her you care about me? Not in those words. But kids aren't stupid. She knows something's different. Vivian was quiet for a moment. This is really happening, isn't it? We're really doing this. Seems like it. I'm terrified. Good, means it matters. She squeezed his hand, then stood up. I should get back to work. We have 3 clients who think their projects are the only ones that matter, and one who wants to completely redesign their interface 2 weeks before launch. Welcome to tech. I'm starting to understand why Karen looks so tired all the time. Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather. Cool enough for jackets, warm enough for playing outside. Noah picked Vivian up at 10, and she climbed into his car wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more nervous than he'd ever seen her. Relax, he said. Easy for you to say. You're not about to meet a tiny human who might decide your fate. Lily's 7. She doesn't decide anyone's fate. All 7-year-olds are judges. They just haven't told us yet. Noah laughed and drove them to his apartment. Lily was waiting at the window when they pulled up, and Noah could see her practically vibrating with excitement. Remember, he told Vivian as they walked to the door, just be yourself. Kids can smell fake from a mile away. Being myself is what I'm worried about. The door flew open before Noah could unlock it. Lily stood there in her favorite purple shirt and mismatched socks, her hair in pigtails that Mrs. Chen had clearly done because Noah couldn't make pigtails to save his life. Is this her? Lily demanded. Is this the princess from the wedding? Vivian crouched down to Lily's eye level. I'm Vivian. I'm definitely not a princess, though, just a regular person. Lily studied her seriously. Daddy said you're nice. Are you nice? I try to be, though sometimes I'm grumpy before I have coffee. Daddy's grumpy before coffee, too. Lily's face broke into a grin. Do you like dragons? I love dragons, especially the fierce ones. I have a dragon. Her name is Sparkle, and she's very fierce. Want to see my drawing? I'd love to. Lily grabbed Vivian's hand and dragged her inside, chattering about Sparkle and her various adventures. Noah followed, watching Vivian relax incrementally as Lily's enthusiasm bulldozed through her nervousness. They spent an hour at the apartment while Lily showed Vivian her drawings, her books, her collection of interesting rocks. Vivian asked questions, made appropriate impressed sounds, and didn't once talk down to Lily or treat her like a prop. Then they went to the park, the same one where Noah brought Lily every Saturday, with the good playground and the duck pond and the pretzel vendor who knew them by name. Lily ran ahead to the swings, leaving Noah and Vivian walking behind. "She's amazing," Vivian said quietly. "She likes you. I can tell." "How can you tell?" "She shared her rock collection. That's sacred territory." They sat on a bench while Lily played, occasionally running back to show them some treasure she'd found. A particularly smooth stone, a stick shaped like a Y, a leaf that was perfect according to criteria only she understood. "This is nice," Vivian said after a while. "Quiet, normal." "Is it what you expected?" "I didn't know what to expect, but yeah, this is good." Lily came running back, breathless. "Can Vivian push me on the swings? Daddy always pushes too hard." "I do not push too hard. You said you wanted to touch the sky." "You almost launched me into orbit," Vivian laughed. "I'll push just right. Not too hard, not too soft. Like Goldilocks." Exactly like Goldilocks. Noah watched them walk to the swings together, Lily's small hand in Vivian's, chattering about bears and porridge, and whether Goldilocks was actually a criminal for breaking and entering. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Enjoying your little family outing?" "Cute. Check your email." Noah's stomach dropped. He opened his email, and there it was. A message from Richard Hale with a PDF attached. The subject line read, "Food for thought." The PDF was a gossip column article, scheduled to run Monday morning. Noah skimmed it quickly, his anger building with each paragraph. The article painted Vivian as a gold digger who'd strategically attached herself to Noah after losing her job. It suggested she'd manipulated the situation, trading on her family name to gain access to his wealth. It included quotes from sources close to the family that were clearly Richard himself, expressing concern about Noah being taken advantage of. It was vicious. It was calculated. And it would destroy Vivian's reputation. Noah called Richard immediately. "Mr. Bennett?" Richard's voice was smooth. "I see you got my message. Kill the article." "I don't control the press. I simply spoke to some friends in media about my concerns." "Your concerns are lies. You're doing this because Vivian refused to help you access my money." "I'm doing this because someone needs to look out for my daughter's best interests. She's clearly not thinking clearly." "Her best interests? You're about to publicly humiliate her because she stood up to you." "Am I?" Richard sounded amused. "Or am I simply sharing my perspective on a situation that many people are already questioning? You're a billionaire. She's unemployed. Well, was unemployed until conveniently landing a job with you. The optics aren't great, Mr. Bennett." Noah's grip on his phone tightened. "What do you want?" "A conversation about mutually beneficial business arrangements, about helping the Hale family regain its footing, about investing in opportunities that would benefit us both. And if I agree to this conversation, the article disappears? I might be persuaded to ask my media friends to reconsider the angle. Focus on the romance instead of the financial aspects. Much nicer story, don't you think?" Noah looked over at Vivian pushing Lily on the swings, both of them laughing. She had no idea what was coming, no idea that her father had weaponized her relationship and was using it as leverage. "Monday morning," Noah said. "My office. But I'm not promising anything. That's all I ask. A conversation between reasonable men." Richard hung up. Noah stood there, phone in hand, rage and helplessness warring in his chest. He could pay Richard off, make this go away. But that would just be the beginning. Men like Richard Hale didn't stop after one successful extortion. They kept coming back, kept asking for more, until there was nothing left to take. Or he could let the article run and deal with the fallout. Let Vivian face the public humiliation her father was engineering. There had to be a third option. "Daddy," Lily called, "come push with us." Noah pocketed his phone and walked over to the swings, forcing a smile he didn't feel. Vivian looked at him and her expression changed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Later," he said quietly. "Let's just have this afternoon." But the afternoon was already poisoned. Noah went through the motions, pushing Lily on the swings, getting pretzels from the vendor, feeding ducks at the pond. But his mind was elsewhere, trying to figure out how to protect Vivian from what was coming without making decisions for her. When they finally headed back, Lily was tired and happy, chattering about how much fun she'd had, and could Vivian come to the park again next week, and maybe they could feed the ducks more bread next time. "We'll see," Noah said, catching Vivian's eye. After dropping Lily back at the apartment with Mrs. Chen, Noah drove Vivian home. She was quiet, watching him. "Tell me," she said finally. "Whatever it is, just tell me." So he did. Told her about Richard's text, the article, the ultimatum, watched her face go from confused to hurt to furious. "He's using me," she said flatly, "using our relationship as leverage to get to your money." "Yeah. And the article runs Monday unless you meet with him." "That's the threat." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. What do you want me to do?" "Don't meet with him. Don't give him what he wants." "Vivian, if that article runs, then it runs. Let him do his worst." Her voice was hard now. "I'm not going to be the reason you get extorted. I'm not going to be a weapon he uses against you. This isn't your fault." "It is, though. If I hadn't hired you for that wedding, if I hadn't dragged you into my family's mess, if you hadn't done those things, we wouldn't be here right now. And despite everything, I don't regret here." Vivian looked at him, and tears were streaming down her face now. "I'm so tired, Noah. I'm so tired of my family using me, of being the disappointment, of feeling like I'm never going to be enough." Noah pulled over, put the car in park, and turned to face her. "You are enough. You've always been enough. Your father's toxicity isn't a reflection of you, it's a reflection of him. The article's going to say I'm using you. Everyone's going to believe it. Then we tell them the truth, together. We don't hide. We don't let Richard control the narrative." "How?" Noah thought for a moment, an idea forming. It was risky. It would expose them both. But it was the only way he could see to take the power back. "We do our own press conference, Monday morning, before the article runs. We tell our story, the real one. How we met, why you're working for me, everything." Vivian stared at him. "That's insane." "Probably. But it's the truth. And I'm tired of hiding from the truth." "You'll lose your privacy, everything you've worked to protect." "I've already lost most of it. Might as well lose the rest on my own terms." She was quiet, and Noah could see her weighing it, considering the implications. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's do it. Let's tell them everything." Noah pulled her close, and she buried her face in his shoulder. "We're really doing this," she whispered. "Yeah, we really are." And somewhere in the back of his mind, Noah thought about 2 crumpled dollar bills and how they'd led to this moment. This leap into uncertainty, this choice to be seen, this terrifying possibility that maybe, finally, the truth was worth more than protection. Sunday passed in a haze of planning and second-guessing. Noah spent the morning with Lily, trying to be present while his mind raced through scenarios and contingencies. She noticed, of course. Kids always noticed. "You're worried about something," she said over lunch, studying him with those 2 perceptive eyes. "Just work stuff, Ladybug." "Is it about Vivian?" Noah nearly choked on his sandwich. "Why would you think that?" "Because you get a different face when you talk about her. Like you're happy, but also scared." Lily took a bite of her apple. "I like her. She didn't treat me like a baby." "She likes you too." "Good. Because if you marry her, I want her to like me." "Lily, I'm just saying, you should probably marry someone who likes both of us. That's important." Noah pulled his daughter into a hug, wondering when she'd gotten so wise and whether 7-year-olds were supposed to have this much insight into their parents' love lives. That afternoon, while Lily was at a friend's birthday party, Noah met Vivian at a coffee shop, not Morrison's, somewhere new and anonymous where they could talk without ghosts watching. She looked exhausted. "I didn't sleep." "Neither did I. I keep thinking about tomorrow, about standing in front of cameras and telling everyone about the $2 and the wedding and all of it. It feels insane." "It is insane," Noah agreed, "but it's honest insanity. That counts for something." Vivian wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "My mother called this morning. Apparently Richard told her I'm making a terrible mistake and ruining my reputation. She wanted to know if it was true I'm sleeping with my boss. What did you tell her? I told her my sex life was none of her business and hung up. Vivian smiled grimly. I'm getting good at hanging up on my family. It's a useful skill. They sat in silence for a moment, the coffee shop bustling around them with Sunday afternoon energy. I've been thinking about what we say tomorrow, Vivian said. How much we reveal. Everything. That's the point. Even the part where you recognized me from high school? Where I rejected you? Noah hesitated. That was the piece that made him vulnerable, that exposed the wound he'd carried for 14 years. But hiding it would defeat the purpose. Even that, especially that, because it's the truth. It makes me look terrible. It makes you look human, flawed, real. He reached across the table and took her hand. We're not trying to look perfect. We're trying to look honest. The press is going to have a field day with this. Billionaire falls for woman who rejected him in high school. It's like a bad romance novel. Let them. At least they'll have the real story instead of whatever Richard's trying to sell. Vivian squeezed his hand. Okay. Tomorrow. We do this together. Together, Noah confirmed. That evening, Noah sat down with Daniel and Sarah to prepare. They'd called the same media outlets that had attended Wednesday's press conference, plus a few others who'd been requesting interviews. The response had been immediate and enthusiastic. Everyone wanted to know about the mysterious Vivian Hales situation. We're going to need talking points, Daniel said, laptop open, fingers poised over the keyboard. Some kind of structure so you don't just ramble. No talking points, Noah said. This works if it's genuine. The moment it sounds scripted, we lose credibility. Sarah nodded. He's right. People can smell a prepared statement. This needs to feel like a conversation. A conversation in front of 50 reporters with cameras, Daniel muttered. What could go wrong? Everything, Noah said cheerfully, which is why we're doing it. They spent 2 hours going over logistics, potential questions, worst-case scenarios. By the end, Noah's head was spinning, and he was questioning every decision that had led to this moment. But he thought about Vivian at the park, pushing Lily on the swings. Thought about her laugh, genuine and unguarded. Thought about the way she'd stood up to her father, choosing dignity over ease. Some things were worth the risk. Monday morning arrived too fast. Noah woke at 5, gave up on sleep by 5:30, and was at the office by 6. The press conference was scheduled for 9. 3 hours to prepare, to panic, to change his mind a dozen times and commit again. Vivian arrived at 7, looking simultaneously professional and terrified in a gray suit that made her look like she belonged in a boardroom. Ready? She asked. Not even a little bit. You? I threw up twice this morning. Does that count as ready? Noah pulled her into his office and closed the door. We can still cancel. Call it off. Meet with your father. Let the article run. Find another way. Is that what you want? I want you to be okay, whatever that takes. Vivian cupped his face in her hands. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time. But standing here with you, about to do the scariest thing I've ever done, I feel like maybe I could be okay. Eventually. Noah kissed her, and it felt like both a beginning and an ending, like standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable. Let's go be not okay together, he said. By 8:30, the media room was packed. Even more reporters than Wednesday, plus photographers, camera crews, people Noah didn't recognize but who looked hungry for story. Daniel appeared at his elbow. Richard Hale is here. Noah's head snapped around. What? He's in the back. Showed up 20 minutes ago claiming he's family and has a right to be here. Security didn't know whether to remove him. Where's Vivian? Getting mic'd up. She doesn't know yet. Noah swore under his breath. Of course Richard was here. Of course he'd show up to watch his manipulation play out in real time, probably expecting Noah to fold at the last minute. Let him stay, Noah said, but keep security close. If he tries to interrupt, remove him. You're sure? He wants a show? Let's give him one. At precisely 9 o'clock, Noah and Vivian walked into the media room together. The noise level dropped immediately, cameras flashing, recording devices activating, the predatory attention of people who sensed blood in the water. They took their seats at the table that had been set up at the front. Noah could see Richard in the back row, arms crossed, expression smug. Noah cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. I know there's been a lot of speculation about my relationship with Vivian Hale. We're here to set the record straight. He paused, glancing at Vivian. She nodded. This story starts 14 years ago, at a high school called Westbrook. I was a senior on scholarship. Vivian was a junior. I had a crush on her. Worked up the courage to ask her to a dance. She said no. Actually, she said something considerably more cutting than no, but the point is, she rejected me. Publicly. It hurt. A lot. The room was silent now, everyone leaning forward. I went on with my life, built a business, had a daughter, became successful in ways I never imagined. And then 3 weeks ago, I walked into a coffee shop and saw Vivian again. She didn't recognize me. She was having the worst day of her life. And in what might have been the universe's most ironic moment, she offered me $2 to be her fake boyfriend for a wedding. Murmurs rippled through the room, a few laughs. I said yes, not for revenge, not to prove something, but because something in that moment felt like a second chance. At what? I wasn't sure. But I took it. Vivian shifted beside him, and Noah nodded to her. She leaned toward the microphone, her voice steady despite the tremor Noah knew she must be feeling. Everything Noah just said is true. I was cruel to him in high school. I dismissed him because he didn't fit my narrow, privileged worldview of what mattered. I'm not proud of that. I'm ashamed of it. She took a breath. When I saw him in that coffee shop, I had no idea who he was. I was desperate and broke and angry at my family, and I made a ridiculous offer. He accepted, and that acceptance changed my life. A reporter called out, "Is it true you're now employed by Mr. Bennett's company?" "Yes," Vivian said. "I work for Bennett Technologies. I earned that position based on my skills and qualifications. Noah didn't hire me out of pity or because we're involved. He hired me because I'm good at my job." "Are you involved?" another reporter asked. "Romantically?" Noah and Vivian looked at each other. This was it, the moment they admitted it publicly. "Yes," Noah said. "We're involved. We're figuring out what that means. It's complicated and messy and probably ill-advised to date your employee, but it's also real. How do you respond to allegations that Ms. Hale is using you for your money?" Vivian stiffened, but Noah spoke before she could. "Those allegations are baseless and insulting. Vivian didn't know who I was when she hired me. She didn't know I had money. She knew I had $2. That's what our relationship started with, 2 actual dollar bills. Everything else came later." "But surely the optics, Noah interrupted, his voice hard now, "are that a woman lost her job, got herself back on her feet, and happened to reconnect with someone from her past. If that someone happens to have money, it doesn't invalidate the connection. It doesn't make her a gold digger. It makes her a human being navigating a complicated situation." In the back row, Richard Hale stood up. "That's a lovely story, Mr. Bennett, but it's convenient, isn't it? My daughter is struggling financially, you're wealthy and available, and suddenly there's this romantic narrative. Forgive me for being skeptical." The room went electric. Cameras swiveled to Richard, then back to Noah and Vivian. Vivian's face had gone pale. "Father, what are you doing here?" "Protecting your interests, sweetheart. Someone has to." Richard's voice carried across the room. "Mr. Bennett may believe his intentions are pure, but I've seen this before. Wealthy men who enjoy the novelty of a beautiful woman until the novelty wears off." "That's enough," Noah said, standing up. "Is it? Because from where I stand, you've inserted yourself into my daughter's life, employed her in a position where she's financially dependent on you, and now you're parading your relationship in front of the media. That's not romance. That's control." Vivian stood up too, her chair scraping back. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to stand there and pretend you care about my welfare when you threaten to run a hit piece about me unless Noah gave you money." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, the controlled chaos of a story that had just taken an unexpected turn. Richard's face went red. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't you?" Vivian pulled out her phone, navigating to something, then looked at the reporters. "My father sent Noah a draft of an article scheduled to run today, an article painting me as a gold digger. He threatened to let it run unless Noah agreed to a business meeting. That's not protection. That's extortion." "You're lying," Richard sputtered. "I have the emails," Noah said calmly. time-stamped, complete with your ultimatum. I'm happy to provide them to anyone who wants verification. Richard looked around the room, realizing he'd lost control of the narrative. This is a family matter. It should be handled privately. You made it public when you walked into this press conference, Vivian said, and her voice was shaking now, but not with fear, with rage. You made it public when you tried to use my relationship as leverage. You made it public when you decided my life was a tool for your financial recovery. She turned to the reporters. My father gambled away the family fortune. He's in debt. He's desperate. And when he saw that I'd connected with someone successful, he saw an opportunity. Not for me, for him. That's what this is really about. Not my welfare, his wallet. Vivian, that's enough, Richard snapped. No, it's not nearly enough. I've spent my whole life being enough for everyone except you. Being the disappointment, the difficult one, the daughter who couldn't be controlled. Well, you're right. I can't be controlled. Not anymore. Not by you. She looked at Noah, and he saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Not just anger, certainty. I'm in love with him, she said, and the room went silent. I didn't plan it. I didn't expect it. But somewhere between $2 and now, I fell in love with Noah Bennett. Not his money, not his status. Him. The man who showed up when I needed someone. The man who defended me to my own family. The man who saw me at my worst and chose to stay anyway. Noah's heart stopped. They hadn't said those words to each other yet, hadn't crossed that line. And now Vivian was saying it in front of 50 reporters and her father and the entire watching world. I love you too, he said, because what else could he say? What else was true? I've probably loved you since that coffee shop. Maybe before. Maybe since high school, in some twisted way. I don't know. But I know I'm not letting you go. Not for your father's approval. Not for public opinion. Not for anything. Vivian crossed to him, and Noah met her halfway, and they stood there in front of all those cameras and admitted something they'd been too scared to say in private. Richard made a disgusted sound. This is ridiculous. You're both delusional if you think this will last. Vivian, when he gets tired of you, then I'll survive, Vivian said, not taking her eyes off Noah. I've survived worse than heartbreak. I've survived you. Security was moving toward Richard now, and he seemed to realize his moment was over. He shot Vivian one last look, something between disappointment and fury, and let himself be escorted out. The reporters exploded with questions, all talking over each other, demanding details and clarification and more drama. But Noah ignored them. He was looking at Vivian, at the woman who'd just declared her love in the most public way possible, who'd chosen him over her family, over reputation, over everything. We should probably answer some questions, she whispered. Probably, he agreed, but neither of them moved. Finally, Daniel stepped up to the microphones. We'll take a few more questions, but keep them respectful or we're done here. The questions came rapid fire after that. About their relationship timeline, about Vivian's job, about Richard's allegations. Noah and Vivian answered what they could, deflected what they couldn't, and tried to maintain some semblance of dignity while essentially admitting they were two messy humans figuring things out in real time. After 30 minutes, Daniel called it. That's all we have time for. Thank you, everyone. They escaped to Noah's office, closing the door against the chaos. For a long moment, they just stood there, breathing. Did I really just tell the entire world I love you? Vivian asked. Yeah, you did. Before I told you privately. Yeah. I'm an idiot. Noah pulled her close. You're brave. There's a difference. My father's going to destroy me. He'll tell anyone who'll listen that I'm ungrateful, delusional, making a mistake. Let him. You're not his to destroy anymore. Vivian buried her face in Noah's shoulder. I meant it, what I said about loving you. I know. I meant it too. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other while the world processed what they'd just done. Noah's phone started buzzing, then Vivian's, then the office phone. Calls, texts, emails flooding in from media outlets, business contacts, friends, acquaintances, people Noah hadn't heard from in years. Sarah appeared in the doorway. So, that happened. That happened, Noah agreed. The media is going crazy. Twitter's melting down. Someone already made a meme about the $2. She held up her phone, showing them an image of $2 bills with the caption, Best investment ever. Despite everything, Vivian laughed. At least they have a sense of humor about it. Initial response is actually pretty positive, Sarah continued. People love the high school rejection angle. They love that you admitted your flaws. They love the drama with your father. You're trending #1 nationwide. Great, Vivian muttered. That's exactly what I wanted. Sarah smiled sympathetically. For what it's worth, I think what you did was incredibly brave, both of you. She glanced at her phone. Oh, and Richard Hale's lawyer is already calling about defamation. I told them to send any communications in writing. Of course he is, Vivian said. After Sarah left, Noah and Vivian sat on the couch in his office, exhausted and wired simultaneously. What happens now? Vivian asked. Now we deal with the fallout, the press coverage, your father's legal threats, probably more media requests than we can handle. And us? Noah took her hand. Us, we figure out as we go, one day at a time, one crisis at a time. That's not very romantic. Romance is overrated. Partnership is better. Vivian leaned her head on his shoulder. I can't believe I fell in love with you in 3 weeks. That's insane. You fell in love with me 14 years ago. You just didn't know it yet. That's presumptuous. That's optimistic. They sat in silence for a while, and Noah thought about how 3 weeks ago he'd been a man hiding from the world, content in his anonymity, convinced that privacy was the same as safety. Now he was front-page news, his relationship dissected by strangers, his carefully constructed walls demolished. And somehow, impossibly, he was happier than he'd been in years. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Mrs. Chen. Saw the news. Lily asking questions. Come home when you can. I need to go, Noah said. Lily's going to have heard about this by now. Kids at school, other parents. I need to talk to her before it gets too confusing. Do you want me to come with you? Noah considered. Yeah, actually I do, if you're up for it. Meeting your daughter for the second time while explaining that her dad just declared his love on national television sounds delightful. They drove to Noah's apartment in comfortable silence. The building's lobby had 3 reporters camped out, but security kept them at bay. Noah and Vivian made it to the elevator without incident. Lily was waiting when they walked in, sitting on the couch with Mrs. Chen, looking small and serious. Daddy? She said carefully. Mia's mom showed me something on her phone. She said you were on TV. Noah sat down beside his daughter. I was. Vivian and I both were. She said you're in love with Vivian. That's true. Lily looked at Vivian, who'd stayed near the door, trying not to intrude. Are you in love with my daddy? Yes, Vivian said simply. I am. Good. Lily seemed satisfied. I told Mia you were probably getting married, and she said I was making it up. But I wasn't, was I? Noah felt Vivian's eyes on him. We're not getting married right now, Ladybug. We're just figuring things out. But eventually, maybe eventually. Okay. Lily slid off the couch and walked over to Vivian. If you marry Daddy, will you be my mom? Vivian's face went through about 6 emotions in 3 seconds. She knelt down to Lily's level. Your mom will always be your mom, sweetheart. Nothing changes that. If your dad and I got married someday, I'd just be someone else who loves you. But you'd live here? Maybe. And we could feed the ducks together? Definitely. Lily threw her arms around Vivian's neck, and Noah watched Vivian's eyes fill with tears as she hugged his daughter back. Mrs. Chen caught Noah's eye and gave him an approving nod before quietly slipping out. I like her, Daddy, Lily announced when she pulled back. She can stay. I'm glad, Noah said, pulling both of them into a hug. Because I like her too. That evening, after Lily was in bed and Vivian had stayed for dinner and a movie and the comfortable domesticity of just being together, they sat on Noah's couch with the lights low and the city glowing outside the window. This is weird, Vivian said. What is? This, normal. After everything that happened today, we're just sitting here watching bad TV and eating popcorn. Did you expect something different? I expected chaos, drama, everything falling apart. Noah pulled her closer. Everything did fall apart. We just rebuilt it faster than it could destroy us. Vivian was quiet for a moment. My phone's been going crazy. My sister called. My mother. Even some friends I haven't heard from in years. Everyone has an opinion. And? And I don't care. For the first time in my life, I genuinely don't care what they think. She looked up at him. Is that bad? Should I care? You should care about the people who care about you. Everyone else is just noise. Then there's very little I should care about. You have me. You have Lily. You have a job you're good at and a future that's yours to build. Noah kissed her forehead. That's more than most people get. Vivian's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and made a face. Marcus, the ex-fiancé from the wedding. He wants to meet for coffee and talk about everything. What are you going to tell him? Nothing. He gets silence and blocked number. She typed something quickly and set the phone down. There. Done. No more ghosts. Just like that? Just like that. I'm tired of giving space in my life to people who don't deserve it. They sat in comfortable silence, and Noah thought about how far they'd both come from that coffee shop 3 weeks ago. Thought about $2 bills and fake boyfriends and the ridiculous improbability of any of this working out. Hey, Vivian said softly. You okay? You got quiet. Just thinking about how this started, how random it was. It wasn't random. It was fate. You don't believe in fate. I didn't, but maybe I do now. She shifted to face him fully. Noah, I need to ask you something. Okay. Are you scared? Of this? Of us? Of how fast everything's moving? Noah considered lying, then decided they'd done enough of that. Terrified, every day. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to realize this is too complicated, or I'm too damaged, or my life is too messy. Your life isn't messier than mine. My life comes with a 7-year-old who needs stability and a business that demands attention and a public profile I can't control anymore. That's a lot to take on. And my life comes with a toxic family, trust issues, and a history of making spectacularly bad decisions. We're both disasters, Noah. But maybe we're disasters that work together. He pulled her into a kiss, and it felt different this time. Not desperate or questioning or tentative, just certain, like coming home. I love you, he said against her mouth. I should have said it more clearly before. I love you. I love you too. Even though you're infuriating and stubborn and way too good at making me feel things. They stayed on the couch until Vivian's eyes started drifting closed, and Noah realized it was past midnight. You should stay, he said. It's late. Guest room's made up. Guest room, Vivian repeated with a small smile. Unless you want my room, in which case I take the guest room. Noble of you. I try. But in the end, they both ended up in Noah's room, fully clothed, just sleeping next to each other because neither wanted to be alone. It was innocent and intimate and perfect in its simplicity. Noah woke up around 3 a.m. to find Vivian awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep? He whispered. Too many thoughts. Want to share? She was quiet for a moment. I'm thinking about my father, about how angry he must be, about what he might do next. Whatever he does, we'll handle it. You keep saying that because it's true. Vivian rolled onto her side to face him. What if he goes after your business? What if he tries to damage your reputation or your clients, or then I'll deal with it. Vivian, I've built my business to withstand attacks. I've made enemies over the years. Your father's just one more. But no buts. You're not responsible for his actions. You're only responsible for yours and your actions today. Standing up to him, choosing yourself, being brave when it would have been easier to hide, those were perfect. Tears slid down Vivian's cheeks. I've never had someone defend me like this. Get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere. She curled into him, and Noah held her while she cried quietly, releasing years of pressure and pain and disappointment. He didn't try to fix it or stop it, just held her and let her feel what she needed to feel. Eventually she fell asleep, and Noah lay awake watching the city lights paint patterns on the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that. They jumped off a cliff today, declared their love in front of the world, burned bridges with Vivian's family, exposed themselves completely. And somehow, impossibly, they'd survived the fall. Now came the hard part, building something real from the wreckage, figuring out how to be together when the cameras weren't watching and the drama died down, learning each other's rhythms, quirks, the 1,000 small things that made a relationship work or fall apart. But Noah wasn't scared anymore. Or rather, he was scared, but he was doing it anyway. Because Vivian was worth it. They were worth it. And those 2 crumpled dollar bills had bought him something money could never buy: a second chance at getting love right. The weeks that followed the press conference were both easier and harder than Noah expected. The media frenzy lasted about 10 days. Articles dissecting their relationship, opinion pieces about workplace romance, even a few surprisingly supportive editorials about second chances and honest love. Then, as media frenzies do, it faded. New scandals emerged, more interesting stories captured attention, and Noah and Vivian were left to figure out their lives without quite so many cameras pointed at them. Richard Hale had gone silent, which made Noah more nervous than if he'd been actively causing trouble. Silent men like Richard were usually planning something. But for now, life settled into a rhythm. Vivian moved through the office with growing confidence, handling difficult clients with a sharp wit that made even Karen grudgingly admit she was good at her job. Noah tried to maintain professional boundaries and mostly failed, stealing moments in his office when no one was looking, quick kisses that felt like secrets even though everyone knew. Lily had accepted Vivian into their lives with the easy adaptability of children, though she still occasionally asked pointed questions about when the wedding would be and whether she could be a flower girl. "We're not getting married right now," Noah would say. "But soon? Maybe soon." "That's what you said last time." It was a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the press conference, when everything shifted again. Noah was in a meeting with potential investors when Sarah knocked on the conference room door, her expression urgent. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Noah, you need to come out here." Noah excused himself and followed Sarah to her desk, where her computer showed a news alert. His stomach dropped as he read the headline: Hale family fortune, built on fraud? Investigation reveals decades of financial misconduct. "What is this?" Noah asked, scrolling through the article. "It broke 20 minutes ago. Someone leaked documents to the Times showing that Richard Hale's been running a shell game with investor money for years. Fake companies, fraudulent loans, the whole thing. The SEC's opening an investigation." Noah read quickly, his mind racing. This explained so much. The family's financial troubles, Richard's desperation, his aggressive attempts to access Noah's money. "Where's Vivian?" "Her office. I don't think she's seen it yet." Noah found Vivian at her desk, absorbed in spreadsheets, completely unaware that her family's world was imploding. He closed the door behind him. "We need to talk." She looked up, saw his expression, and her face went pale. "What happened?" He showed her the article, watched the color drain from her face as she read, her hands starting to shake. "No," she whispered. "No, this can't be right. My father's a lot of things, but fraud? Prison-level fraud? The documents are pretty damning." Bank records, emails, testimony from former business partners. Vivian stood up, paced to the window, paced back. "Who leaked it?" "Article doesn't say. Could be someone he screwed over. Could be the SEC. Could be anyone." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the screen. "My mother, my sister. They're going to be destroyed by this." "Probably. I should call them." "Do you want to call them?" Vivian looked at him, and Noah saw the conflict written across her face. "They're my family. No matter how toxic, no matter how terrible they've been, they're still my family." "Then call them," Noah said gently. "But remember, you're not responsible for fixing this. You're not responsible for your father's choices." Vivian picked up her phone, stared at it, then set it down again. "I don't know what to say. Sorry our father's a criminal? Hope you don't get arrested too." Before Noah could answer, Vivian's phone rang. Her mother. She answered on speaker. "Mother," Catherine Hale's voice was tight, controlled, on the edge of breaking. "I assume you've seen the news." "Just now. Your father's lawyer says the charges are baseless, a vendetta from disgruntled former partners. He says—" "Mother, stop." Vivian's voice was firm. "I read the article. I saw the evidence. This isn't a vendetta. This is consequences." Silence. Then, "How can you say that? He's your father." "He's a criminal. Those aren't mutually exclusive." "Vivian, please. We need help. We need legal representation, someone who can make this go away. Mr. Bennett has resources, connections. No. Vivian's voice was absolute. Noah's not cleaning up Father's mess. Neither am I. You're on your own with this one. How can you be so cold? Your sister is devastated. The wedding she just had, the life she thought she was building, it's all collapsing because of this. Then maybe she should have paid more attention to where the money came from instead of just spending it. Catherine made a wounded sound. I raised you better than this. No, you didn't. You raised me to smile and look pretty and not ask questions. I'm asking questions now, and I don't like the answers. She hung up before her mother could respond. Noah pulled her into his arms, and Vivian shook against him, not crying, just trembling with adrenaline and anger and relief. I can't believe I just did that, she said. I can. You've been building to it for weeks. She's going to hate me. She already made you feel like you weren't enough. At least now you don't have to pretend it bothers you. Vivian pulled back to look at him. Does that make me a terrible person? Not caring that my family's falling apart? It makes you a person who's choosing herself for the first time. That's not terrible. That's survival. The rest of the day passed in a blur. More articles appeared, each revealing additional layers of Richard's fraud. The amounts were staggering, millions of dollars, dozens of victims, a web of deception that had lasted decades. By evening, Richard Hale had been arrested, his bail set absurdly high, his fall from society's grace complete and brutal. Vivian handled it with a composure that surprised even Noah. She worked through the afternoon, answered the concerned questions from colleagues with brief explanations, and refused to let her father's crimes define her day. But that evening, when they were back at Noah's apartment with Lily in bed, she finally broke. I should have known, she said, curled on the couch with a glass of wine she wasn't drinking. All those years, the way money appeared and disappeared, the nervous energy whenever auditors came around, I should have known. You were a kid, then you were an adult trying to survive. You weren't responsible for seeing through his lies. But I benefited from them. The private school, the fancy clothes, the lifestyle, all of it was built on stolen money. Noah sat beside her. And now you're building your own life on money you earned. You're breaking the cycle. That counts for something. Does it? Because it feels like I'm just running away from the wreckage. You're not running. You're walking forward. There's a difference. Vivian set down her wine and leaned into him. What if people think I'm like him? What if they assume I knew, that I was complicit? Then we correct them. We show them who you actually are. We let your actions speak louder than his crimes. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm scared, Noah. I know. Not of the press or the investigation or any of that. I'm scared that I'm going to wake up one day and realize I'm just like him. That I'll hurt you the way he hurt people. That I'll destroy this thing we're building because destruction is all I know. Noah turned her face toward him, making sure she could see his eyes. You're nothing like him. You're honest when it costs you. You're brave when it's hard. You choose people over pride. Your father could never do any of those things. You don't know that. I do. Because I've watched you make those choices every day since I met you. In the coffee shop, at the wedding, in the press conference. Every time you choose truth over comfort. That's not who Richard Hale is. That's who you are. Tears slid down Vivian's cheeks. I love you. I love you too. Even with all this mess? Even with my family's criminal history and the media attention and all of it? Especially with all of it. Because it shows me who you are when everything's falling apart. And who you are is someone worth loving. They held each other while the city lights painted shadows on the walls. Two people choosing each other despite everything that said they shouldn't work. The next few weeks were chaos. Richard's trial dominated headlines. More victims came forward, their stories painting a picture of a man who'd built his entire life on lies. Catherine and Vivian's sister largely disappeared from public view, though occasional photos surfaced of them looking drawn and exhausted. Vivian refused all interview requests, all attempts to get her to comment on her father's crimes. She went to work, did her job brilliantly, and built a life that had nothing to do with the Hale name. But Noah could see it wearing on her. The constant questions, the suspicious looks, the way some people treated her like she might be guilty by association. It was a Friday evening, 2 months after Richard's arrest. when Noah found Vivian crying in her office. Not the quiet, controlled tears he'd seen before. Full sobs, the kind that came from a place too deep for words. He closed the door and pulled her into his arms. "Talk to me." "I can't do this anymore," she said between sobs. "I can't keep pretending it doesn't hurt, that I don't care what people think, that I'm fine watching my father destroy everything while I just move on with my life." "Then don't pretend. Be hurt. Be angry. Feel what you need to feel." "But everyone's watching. Everyone's waiting for me to break or prove I'm just like him or screw everyone. You don't owe them performance. You owe them nothing." Vivian pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I got a letter today from one of his victims, a woman who lost her retirement savings because of my father's fraud. She wrote to me asking if I knew where her money went." "Oh, Viv. She's 73 years old. She trusted him, and he destroyed her life. And now she's writing to me because she has nowhere else to turn." Fresh tears spilled over. "How do I live with that? How do I build a happy life knowing my childhood was funded by people like her?" Noah didn't have an easy answer. There wasn't one. So instead he just held her and let her cry until she was empty. Finally she said, "I want to help them, the victims. I want to do something." "Like what?" "I don't know. Set up a fund, use my salary to contribute to their losses, something. Anything that makes me feel less complicit." "You weren't complicit." "But I benefited. That makes me responsible to fix it if I can." Over the next week, with Noah's help and the company's legal team, Vivian set up a victim assistance fund. She pledged half her salary for the next 5 years, organized fundraising efforts, and personally reached out to every victim she could identify to apologize and offer what help she could provide. It didn't fix everything, it couldn't, but it gave her purpose, and Noah watched something shift in her, guilt transforming into action, shame becoming service. The media coverage changed too. Stories appeared about Vivian's efforts, her attempts to make amends for crimes she didn't commit. Public opinion softened. She wasn't Richard Hale's daughter anymore. She was someone fighting to be different from her father. One evening in early December, 3 months after Richard's arrest, Noah came home to find Lily and Vivian in the kitchen together, flour everywhere, attempting to make cookies. "Daddy," Lily announced, "Vivian's teaching me to bake. We're making sugar cookies for Mrs. Chen." "I can see that," Noah said, surveying the disaster area that used to be his kitchen. "How's it going?" "Well," Vivian said, covered in flour, "we've learned that measurements are more important than we thought, and that Lily's definition of a little bit of vanilla is very different from the recipe's definition. They smell good, though. They smell like vanilla extract exploded, but yes, also good." Noah watched them work together, Lily chattering about her day while Vivian listened and asked questions and looked more relaxed than he'd seen her in weeks. This was what he'd hoped for. This ease. This family feeling that didn't require labels or definitions. Later, after Lily was in bed and the kitchen was cleaned and the cookies had been distributed to neighbors, Noah and Vivian sat on his couch with hot chocolate and exhaustion. "She called me almost mom today," Vivian said quietly. "Lily did?" "Yeah, she was talking to her friend on the phone and said, 'My almost mom is teaching me to bake.' I didn't correct her." "Should you have?" "I don't know. Is that what I am? Her almost mom?" Noah set down his mug and turned to face her. "Vivian, where do you see this going? Us, you and me and Lily, this whole thing we're building." She was quiet for a long moment. "I see forever, if I'm being honest. I see waking up next to you every morning. I see helping Lily with homework and going to her school plays. I see building something real that isn't based on money or status or what anyone else thinks we should be." She looked at him. "Is that crazy? Is it too fast?" "It's been 4 months. Exactly. 4 months. Normal people don't know after 4 months. We're not normal people. We're 2 people who found each other in a coffee shop over $2 and decided to be brave." Noah took her hand. "And for what it's worth, I see forever too." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. Yeah. I see you moving in here because your apartment is terrible and you basically live here anyway. I see Lily getting older and you being there for all of it. I see us figuring out this blended family thing and probably making mistakes, but doing it together." He paused. I see marriage, eventually. When we're ready. When it feels right. That's a lot of seeing. I'm an optimist. Vivian laughed through her tears. You're an optimist who hired himself out for $2. The bar was set pretty low. Best $2 I ever accepted. She kissed him, and it felt like a promise. Like all the forevers they'd just admitted to wanting. Move in with me, Noah said when they pulled apart. Officially, not just staying over 4 nights a week, actually living here. That's a big step. We just talked about marriage. Living together is smaller. Living together is more immediate. Marriage is theoretical future. This is now. Is that a no? Vivian smiled. That's a yes. But I'm keeping my apartment for another month, just in case you realize I'm terrible to live with. Deal. They shook on it like business partners, and Noah thought about how far they'd come from that first handshake in Morrison's cafe. Christmas arrived with snow and chaos, and Lily's conviction that Santa needed to bring Vivian presents too, since she was part of the family now. They spent Christmas Eve at Noah's apartment, just the 3 of them and Mrs. Chen, who'd become as much family as anyone related by blood. Lily's gift to Vivian was a drawing of the 3 of them as superheroes. You're the smart one, she explained. Daddy's the strong one, and I'm the fast one. Together we fight bad guys. I love it, Vivian said, tears in her eyes. It's perfect. Noah's gift to Vivian was simpler, a key to his apartment, even though she already had one, but this one was on a keychain with a small frame containing the $2 bills. You kept them, she said, touching the bills through the protective plastic. Always. They're the best investment I ever made. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. I'm sentimental. Sue me. Vivian's gift to Noah was a photo album she'd been compiling secretly. Pictures from the wedding, from their first official date, from random moments over the past months. The last page had an empty frame with a note. For when we take the next big step. Whatever that is, whenever we're ready. They spent Christmas morning watching Lily destroy wrapping paper with the focused intensity of someone on a mission, then made breakfast together in their flower-covered kitchen, and Noah thought this was what happiness felt like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, just ordinary time with people you loved. January brought Richard Hale's sentencing, 15 years in federal prison, asset forfeiture, restitution payments that would likely continue long after he was released. Vivian didn't attend the sentencing. She'd cut all contact with her father months ago, and his lawyer's attempts to reach her went unanswered. But the day the sentence was announced, she was quiet, reflective. You okay? Noah asked that evening. I think so. It feels like an ending, like I can finally stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. And start what? Start living. Really living. Not just surviving or recovering or dealing with fallout, actually building something. What do you want to build? Vivian thought about it. I want to expand the victim fund. Make it bigger. Help more people. I want to finish my degree. I dropped out junior year when the money ran out. I want to be someone Lily's proud to call almost mom. She looked at him. And eventually, when we're both ready, I want to marry you. Noah's heart stuttered. Eventually? Don't panic. I'm not proposing. I'm just saying that's the direction I'm pointed. If you're pointed that way too. I've been pointed that way since the coffee shop. I'm just waiting for you to catch up. Competitive about relationship milestones. That's very mature of you. I'm extremely mature. Ask anyone. They were laughing when Lily appeared in the doorway, supposedly asleep but clearly eavesdropping. Are you getting married? She demanded. Eventually, Vivian said. When's eventually? When it's the right time. Is now the right time? Noah and Vivian looked at each other. Noah could see the same thought occurring to both of them. Why not now? What were they waiting for? Permission. The perfect moment. They'd already done everything backward, fallen in love publicly before privately, moved in together before dating seriously, built a family before defining what they were. Why not this too? What if it was? Noah asked Vivian quietly. What if now was the right time? Are you serious? I don't have a ring. I don't have a plan. But I have you and I have Lily, and I have this feeling that waiting for perfect is just an excuse to be scared. He took her hand. Vivian Hale, will you marry me? Right now. Tomorrow. Whenever you want. Just marry me." Vivian stared at him, shocked. "You're proposing." "I'm proposing. Without a ring. I'll get you 1,000 rings. I'll get you whatever you want. But first I need to know, is this what you want?" Lily was vibrating with excitement, clearly understanding what was happening even if the adults were still catching up. "Yes," Vivian said, and her voice was steady even though she was crying. "Yes, I'll marry you. This is completely insane, and we've known each other for 5 months and we're doing everything wrong, but yes. Absolutely yes." Lily screamed and launched herself at them, and they all ended up in a pile on the floor, laughing and crying and trying to explain to a 7-year-old that weddings took planning, and no, we couldn't get married tomorrow, but soon. "How soon?" Lily demanded. Soon, Noah said. "We'll figure it out." They figured it out faster than expected. Vivian wanted small, intimate, nothing like her sister's plaza spectacle. Noah wanted whatever made her happy. Lily wanted to be flower girl and wear a purple dress. 2 weeks later, on a Friday afternoon in late January, they got married in Noah's apartment with 15 people present. Mrs. Chen, Daniel, Sarah, Karen, a few close friends, and Lily as the world's most enthusiastic flower girl. Vivian wore a simple cream dress she'd bought off the rack. Noah wore the suit from the wedding where this had all started. The officiant was a friend of Daniel's who kept the ceremony short and sweet. "Do you, Noah Bennett, take Vivian Hale to be your wife?" "I do." "And do you, Vivian Hale, take Noah Bennett to be your husband?" Vivian looked at Noah, and her eyes were bright with tears and joy and certainty. "I absolutely do." They kissed while Lily cheered and Mrs. Chen cried, and Daniel captured it all on his phone because apparently Noah had forgotten to hire a photographer. The reception was pizza and champagne in Noah's living room, Lily falling asleep on the couch by 8, and everyone slowly filtering out until it was just Noah and Vivian, married, sitting on their couch in the quiet apartment. "We did it," Vivian said. "We did. We got married in your living room with pizza catering. Best wedding ever. Your standards are very low." "My standards are perfect. I married you, didn't I?" Vivian laughed and curled into his side. "What happens now?" "Now we live. We work. We raise Lily. We figure out this marriage thing one day at a time." "That's not very romantic." "Romance is overrated. Partnership is better." "You said that before." "I was right then too." They sat in comfortable silence, and Noah thought about the path that had led here. From rejection to coffee shop to $2 to wedding to this moment. Every wrong turn had been right. Every mistake had been necessary. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, then decided to check. It was a photo. Someone had posted their wedding picture online. Just Noah and Vivian kissing, Lily in the background cheering. The caption read, "The $2 wedding, best love story ever." Noah showed Vivian. She smiled. "We're trending again." "Let them trend. We're busy being married." "Very busy, exhaustingly busy." She yawned. "We should probably go to bed." "Probably." But neither of them moved. They stayed on the couch, newly married, watching the city lights, existing in this perfect moment that didn't need anything else to be complete. Eventually, Vivian said, "Noah? Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For accepting $2. For showing up at the wedding. For not running when things got complicated. For choosing me. You chose me too." "I know. Best decision I ever made." "Second best." "What was the best?" Noah pulled her closer. "Walking into that coffee shop in the first place. Everything good started there." The weeks and months that followed were beautifully ordinary. Vivian thrived at work, eventually taking on a leadership role that suited her perfectly. Lily adjusted to having Vivian as a permanent fixture, calling her mom without the almost after about 3 months. The victim fund grew, helping dozens of people rebuild their lives after Richard's fraud. Vivian found purpose in it, a way to transform her family's legacy from destruction to repair. Richard himself became a ghost, serving his sentence, no contact with his family, a cautionary tale about greed and deception. Catherine and Vivian's sister eventually reached out, tentative and apologetic. Vivian set boundaries but allowed limited contact. Some wounds healed better from a distance. One evening in late spring, 6 months after their wedding, Noah came home to find Vivian in the bathroom, staring at something in her hand with an expression he couldn't read. "Everything okay?" he asked. She turned to face him, and he saw she was crying, but they were happy tears, shocked tears. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Noah's world tilted. "You're... what?" "Pregnant. I took 3 tests. They're all positive. I'm pregnant, Noah." He pulled her into his arms, and they stood there in their tiny bathroom while the reality settled over them. A baby. Their baby. Another person to love and protect and worry about. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Are we okay? Is this... do you want this?" "I'm terrified. And shocked. And completely unprepared." Vivian pulled back to look at him. "And yes, I want this. I want all of it. You and Lily, and this baby, and whatever chaos comes next." "That's a lot of chaos. We're good at chaos." They told Lily that weekend. She was going to be a big sister. She screamed with joy, then immediately started planning what color the baby's room should be and whether they could get a dog too, since they were already adding family members. "One thing at a time," Noah said, laughing. "But eventually a dog? Eventually maybe a dog." The pregnancy was not easy. Vivian had terrible morning sickness, exhaustion that made working difficult, and the kind of emotional swings that left them both frustrated and laughing about it afterward. But they got through it together. Noah took over more with Lily, Vivian reduced her hours at work, and they prepared as best they could for the small person who would join them in the fall. On a Tuesday in October, almost exactly 1 year after that press conference that changed everything, Vivian went into labor. Noah drove her to the hospital with Lily in the back seat asking questions and Mrs. Chen following in her own car to pick up Lily once they arrived. "This is really happening," Vivian said between contractions. "This is really happening." "I'm not ready." "Yes, you are." "I don't know how to be a mother." "You've been mothering Lily for months. You're already doing it. That's different. Lily came pre-programmed. This one's starting from scratch." Noah took her hand. "We'll figure it out. Like we figure out everything. Together." Labor lasted 14 hours. Long, painful, exhausting hours where Noah felt completely helpless, and Vivian swore she would never do this again. But then their daughter was born, tiny and perfect and screaming with healthy lungs. The nurse placed her in Vivian's arms, and Noah watched his wife's face transform into something that looked like awe. "She's so small," Vivian whispered. "She's perfect," Noah said, touching their daughter's tiny hand. "What should we name her?" They'd had months to decide and still hadn't chosen. But looking at his daughter now, Noah knew. "Hope," he said. "Her name should be Hope." Vivian looked at him, understanding. Hope for second chances. Hope for new beginnings. Hope that love could heal old wounds and build new futures. "Hope Bennett," she said, testing it. "I love it." Lily met her sister the next day, approaching with unusual caution, clearly nervous about this tiny creature that had disrupted their family. "She's so little," Lily said, peering at Hope in Vivian's arms. "You were this little once," Noah told her. "Really? Really, and you grew up perfect. Hope will too." Lily reached out carefully and touched Hope's hand. The baby's fingers closed around Lily's, and something in Lily's expression shifted. Not jealousy or uncertainty. Pure love. "I'm going to be the best big sister," she announced. "I know you will," Vivian said. They brought Hope home 3 days later to an apartment that felt both too small and exactly right. The first weeks were chaos, sleepless nights, constant feeding, the steep learning curve of caring for a newborn. But they stumbled through it together, Noah and Vivian taking shifts, Lily helping where she could, Mrs. Chen appearing with food and wisdom whenever they needed it most. One night, about a month after Hope's birth, Noah found Vivian in the nursery at 3 a.m, holding their sleeping daughter and crying quietly. "What's wrong?" he whispered, coming to stand beside her. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's what's strange." She looked up at him. "A year ago I was unemployed and broke and angry at the world. Now I'm married to you. I'm a mother to 2 beautiful girls. I have a job I love and a life that feels real." "How did this happen?" $2, Noah said simply. Vivian laughed through her tears. Best $2 in history. Want to know a secret? Always. Noah pulled the $2 bills from his wallet. He carried them everywhere now, framed in protective plastic. I had these appraised last month. Collector told me they're worth about $3,000 combined. Some kind of rare printing error. Vivian's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely. You paid me $3,000 to be your fake boyfriend. That's the worst negotiation in history. Or the best. Depends on how you look at it. They stood together in the quiet nursery, holding their daughter, surrounded by the life they'd built from 2 crumpled dollar bills and the courage to take a chance. I love you, Vivian whispered. I love you too. Even when I'm covered in spit up and haven't showered in 2 days? Especially then. Hope stirred in Vivian's arms, making the small sounds that meant she'd wake soon and need feeding. The moment was ending, as moments did, giving way to the next need, the next task, the ongoing work of living and loving and being a family. But before it ended completely, Noah pulled out his phone and took a picture. Vivian holding Hope, both of them illuminated by the nightlight's soft glow, their faces peaceful and perfect. He sent it to his private photo album, the one he'd been keeping since that first wedding. Hundreds of pictures now. Moments captured and preserved. A visual story of how they'd gotten here. Later, after Hope was fed and back asleep, after Vivian had showered and they'd both gotten a few hours of desperately needed rest, Noah stood in his office looking at the framed $2 bills on his wall. They'd become something of a legend. Articles had been written about them. People asked to see them. Someone had even offered Noah $50,000 to buy them. He'd refused, of course. Some things weren't for sale. These bills represented more than money. They represented the moment his life changed, the moment Vivian chose to be vulnerable, the moment they both decided to be brave, and now they represented this: a family, a home, a love that had started with rejection and grown into something neither of them could have imagined. Noah's phone buzzed. A text from Vivian, even though she was just in the other room. Come back to bed. Your wife misses you. He smiled, touched the framed bills once more, and went to find her. In the bedroom, Vivian was propped up on pillows, baby monitor beside her, looking exhausted and beautiful and completely at peace. What were you doing? She asked as he climbed into bed beside her. Looking at the $2, thinking about how we got here. Regrets? Not a single one. Not even the press conferences, the family drama, the chaos? Especially not those. They made us who we are. Vivian rested her head on his shoulder. Lily asked me today if Hope was going to have a weird love story too when she grows up. What did you tell her? I told her everyone's love story is weird if you tell it right. That weird is just another word for real. Noah kissed the top of her head. You're getting philosophical in your old age. I'm tired. Tired people get philosophical. It's a rule. They lay in comfortable silence, and Noah thought about the future, about watching Hope grow up, about Lily graduating from elementary school, about Vivian's career and his business, and all the normal, beautiful, complicated things that made up a life. He thought about growing old with Vivian, about grandchildren someday, about telling this story to anyone who would listen, how they met over $2, fell in love in public, built a family from broken pieces. Noah? Vivian's voice was sleepy. Yeah? If you could go back to that coffee shop, knowing everything that would happen after, the press, the family drama, all of it, would you still accept my $2? Noah didn't have to think about it. Every single time. I'd accept them 1,000 times. Even knowing I'd rejected you before? Even knowing it would be complicated? Especially because of that. The complications made it real. The history gave it depth. Everything that made it hard also made it matter. Vivian was quiet for a moment. I'm glad you said yes. Me too. Best $2 I ever spent. Best $2 I ever earned. They fell asleep like that, tangled together in their bed in their apartment, in their life that had started with rejection and grown into something that looked an awful lot like forever. And in his wallet, protected by plastic and carried everywhere, 2 crumpled dollar bills remained. Not just money, not just a transaction, but a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures led to the biggest changes. That love could return when least expected, stronger, wiser, and finally ready to stay. that second chances were worth taking, even when they scared you, and that the best investments weren't measured in dollars, but in the courage to say yes when life offered something unexpected and potentially beautiful. Noah had said yes to $2. Vivian had said yes to a stranger in a coffee shop. And together, they'd said yes to every messy, complicated, perfect moment that followed. That was their story, strange and true and entirely their own. And it had all started with $2 and the courage to believe in second chances.